That's the signal.
The
I need more than that.
the live signal now is
And you're off.
Just a casual flailing of the
Jordan,
wrist.
that was at least 3 nice little twirls.
Okay, so today we got how to spend $100 million,
Do I need to
AI
turn this
dating.
off?
Yeah, you can turn that off now. And why we're mentally ill. That's what's on the docket
amongst other
today.
things.
Welcome everyone to the chat. See you guys in there. Thanks for joining us live.
What's
if
up,
you're
guys?
listening.
What up, chat? Oh, I don't like
See,
that phrase. though.
Edmund in there, Tyler, Feech, Basil was
do hate that.
first.
I hate that phrase.
Tunski's in there.
Embrace your inner Zoomer.
Hell yeah.
Calf City, Quad City is in there.
Yep.
Edmond.
Eric, what are we drinking today?
We got a nice tasty mezcal. This is courtesy of our dear friend Amante.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, he picked
Who?
this up in well, you don't know him.
Not my
But-
dear friend.
No, our dear friend. He picked it up in Mexico City. He was there for a bachelor party, and they did a mezcal tasting, and he brought back a couple bottles.
Cool.
He gifted me 3 of them. One I've had already. One I brought to our Bankless podcast with David Hoffman.
oh,
that
that's
was
the guy.
That was a different type with David Hoffman, but this is the third and final one.
It's a special one.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I particularly brought this one
This
because
is a good vibrations.
it's a
mezcal.
special episode for us.
Yeah.
It is.
Our first sponsorship read.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of, so we promised you last week a sponsor. We got one, ZBiotics. It's a product we actually use, and we hit them up to do this, and they were like, "Yeah, your audience is a great fit." So go to zbiotics.com.
Yeah, your audience
slash
seems like a bunch of.
whatchamacallits.
Can we say that? I don't think we can say that.
No, you can't say that.
I believe that the phrase they used was degens and degenettes.
I think
Yeah.
it was like a work hard, play hard
There
feel
you
they were
go.
going
Yes.
for.
Nicer.
But if you go to zbiotics.com/alfalfa, you can get 15% off. So ZBiotics is a pre-alcohol prebiotic. So you take it before you start drinking. And the reason we feel like shit in the morning is because our body produces this toxin when we drink alcohol called acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde?
You did good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Man, this guy
tried
read
to-
the whole primer.
I tried to practice. I
pronunciation.
probably mispronounced it. But anyway, that's why we feel like shit, not dehydration. So ZBiotics produces an enzyme that breaks this down. And basically, I'm at a point where I don't want to drink without it.
I mean, I won't do this podcast without it. I've been dying to talk about this.
Oh, yeah, because we've been drinking it before
Yes,
last
secretly.
Yeah, this
last
is like,
month or two.
This is like
Yeah.
part sponsorship, part alfalfa round, I think. Like, this is,
absolutely.
this is
No, it really
so
is.
good.
No, I am actually addicted to. I'm
So,
I'm dependent on these.
we
I
should-
can no longer function.
Carne Asada Chris introduced us to this like
Right.
a month ago.
Yep.
And I
And
was like,
I made
"Oh,
fun of
no,
them for the record.
not another one of these
Yeah.
things. And we tried it, and we woke up feeling splendid.
Yeah, we
ready to
texted each
tackle the
other.
day.
We were like, okay, we're
And
all
we're
good.
like, how is it this? Was it that? Like, how did that? And we did it again, and it happened again. I would say it reduces my feeling of shittiness by at least 50% on average,
Cool.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
And I generally just feel ready to tackle the day.
So usually take it an hour or two before is what we've been doing before we drink.
Anytime before the first
Yeah.
drink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a
And-
little longer. I think is good.
Is it? Okay.
I've used these a lot now.
Yeah,
I've experimented.
And the way I've been like telling buddies and other friends about it is like for the cost of another drink, you could
Right.
not feel as shitty the next day.
Less than the cost of a drink in San Diego.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, if you guys want to check it out, zbiotics.com/alfalfa, use alfalfa at the checkout to get 15% off.
Yeah, and honestly, do it and check it out because we want to know your thoughts and make these guys happy because then we can keep doing more fun stuff and we can get
Yeah.
more sponsors that we actually align with and like and that we seek out ourselves. So this is really cool for us, and yeah, let us know what you think.
Cool. Well, you'll be hearing about it for the next couple months, and yeah, we'll chat more about it, tell some stories.
Good.
Okay, so let's get into it. So Stephen had this prompt you want to go is like, how would you spend $100 million? Did you just make a boatload of money? And
Oh.
like you're like, so I
Asking
need some
for a
ideas.
friend.
Yeah.
No, I was just at dinner Friday night, and a friend just like threw it out there as like a, conversation thingy. I guess people talk at dinners and stuff. So yeah, I was like, oh, that's like an interesting thing. We haven't actually talked about that a lot, and I was like, that's weird that we haven't talked about that because it seems like something we should talk about. Yeah, I wanted to
So
run
the question
back.
is, what would you do with your life once you're post-economics?
Love that term.
It's the best phrase for
I guess
it.
that's what.
Money becomes meaningless. I think money becomes meaningless after like 35 million.
But I like the specific prompt of 100.
Okay, so
Yeah.
20
Okay,
million.
Spoken like someone who's never wanted to own a jet, by the way.
How do you know I don't want a jet?
Because
You haven't
you
seen
think
my
you can have a
sketches?
jet with 35 million?
Sure you can.
Poor guy.
There's a couple $1 million jets out there. They go down to Nepal every once in a while. But
In
Yeah,
Succession,
it
you're
costs
poor,
like,
brother.
It costs like $800K a year to maintain the damn thing.
so, why don't you kick it off? What have you been thinking about?
Okay, so I feel like a lot of people answer this question and they're immediately like, I want to, it's my favorite charity and I'll do that and I buy my mom a house. And I did none of those things. I immediately went to myself.
Shocking.
And not because I'm a bad person, but like I have this thing with myself where like if I'm not good, I can't worry about anybody else. Like everything else in the world falls apart. But if like I'm good and all my shit's together, like
You need
the
to put
rest of my life
put the
is,
mask on yourself before assisting the children.
Yeah, there you go.
I literally used that analogy. I brought up the oxygen mask one.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't
No,
think
there's
that's
nothing
weird.
wrong with that. It's totally fine. It also makes this discussion like way more fun than if you're just like, well, malaria I think is the thing you can cure the most easily per like dollar spent. So I would, yeah. But I did go to health like immediately. I think like the first thing that pops into my mind was like private chef.
Would you be like that guy that you guys covered that episode?
Brian
on this?
Johnson.
Yeah.
He spends $3 million a year on his personal
Yeah, a
health.
couple million, it looks
Yeah.
like.
That's a terrible life.
But he's turned into a business, seems like. I noticed on Twitter,
Yeah.
he's like prepping the manufacturing lines.
He wants to break even, just like Alfalfa Podcast.
Sure.
Yeah, he does.
I got carried away with this earlier. I started just having a full blown conversation with ChatGPT about this because I wanted to optimize, and I had it give me just like a full budget, like with like line items and everything,
Okay.
like ranked
You're
in order
prepared.
of importance
This is
of what
epic
I thought I should
visualization.
spend
Hold on, read through. Can we read through the spreadsheet here? What did ChatGPT create?
on. Oh
for
well,
you?
if I was doing this properly, I would have, of course, like printed this out and made it a visual aid instead of just like telling you about it.
You're bearing the lead. What are you going to spend your money on?
No, I said my number one thing was like chef. I wanted a private chef.
Chef is way cheaper than $100 million.
I'll get you a chef.
I'm
by
not
3
saying you have to
o'clock.
spend $100 million on a private chef. It's just like a thing you can do. I'm not saying
I'll
you have to
get you a
spend
chef by
all
3
of the
o'clock.
money.
Dude, I'll cook Tuesdays.
And then I came up with a concierge doctor, which actually is
Ooh.
not that expensive. I looked up. It's not like
Steven, everything you're saying you can do right now.
No, I
What's
can't.
the $100 million thing?
What
you're
is a
gonna do?
concierge doctor?
It's like
Get one right now.
You just
at-
like
at
hire a
UCSD.
guy
Like
to
a
be
leader
like
to you.
personal.
the first stupid thing I would do is buy a major league pickleball team.
Okay, that's more
Now
like
we're
it.
talking,
That's
baby.
more like it.
Okay,
And
And
I don't even
place
think it's that
yourself-
stupid. I think you can pick these
but
things
you would
up
make
for like
yourself
a
like
$1 million
the
now.
star of the team as well.
Yeah, I would be like a celebrity
Player,
owner,
coach,
for
manager,
sure.
owner.
Jackie Moon, player coach.
No, I'd be going out there with the players before everything, and I'd buy them all like fun. Like everybody would want to play for my team because I just buy them all like Range Rovers and stuff before the match. And
How much was that Wrexham team?
Oh, that was
I would do
like
that.
only like $3 million.
Yeah, I would do
Which
that.
team?
Add that to my budget.
That was Ryan Reynolds and
Ryan Reynolds.
McElhenney. They bought that
sounds
soccer
so
team.
Fun. Get to hang out with the team, go up the ladder.
And they made money. They made a Netflix
they're-
documentary
they made a ton
off
of
it.
money
huge
already.
now.
Yeah.
He has made.
But yeah, that was only a couple mil.
well, the
Yeah.
MLS teams in general were like some of the best
Oh,
investments.
Inter Miami is already like. It's
Didn't that thing
insane.
go from like 10 million to like
It's
a billion or
insane.
something?
How
And
about
just-
even like MJ, like his investment in Charlotte? Like that's one of the greatest sports investments of all time.
really?
Oh my god!
He recently
He's made
sold
so
some,
He
much
right?
just
money.
sold it. He 10x'd.
Yeah.
He 10x'd over
Everything
like
he
a-
touches turns into like $1 billion. It's
Except his gambling habits.
yeah, that goes the
Yeah.
other way.
Oh, is he just trying to break even too?
Yeah,
Maybe.
aren't we all?
I was thinking 20 million, secure the bag, real estate.
Of
done.
course of course.
Why
you do
not?
that.
Why wouldn't
I
you?
mean,
That'd be
I-
dumb.
of course
That'd be
you do.
dumb if you didn't.
I of course would do the same thing.
Yeah, 15 to 20 million on the house. And then like
You guys making fun of my
Wait,
chef,
sorry.
and he just goes
Sorry,
to real
20
estate.
in investment.
yeah,
real
throw it
estate.
in there, make
15
it
to 20 million on
million
the
and a half
house,
a year.
Primary residence.
Yeah, real estate like
Yeah.
apartment complexes.
No, but
that
I
kind
think
of thing.
this question is particularly interesting. Would you buy a primary residence
Yes,
at this point?
a big one.
Yeah, I'd buy
It's
a
a consumable.
You've been
product.
anti. You've been anti
I've
forever.
been, but like, I mean,
Yeah, how rich do
I
you have
think
to
I'd
get
spend
before you buy a
15
private
million.
ride?
we were
100
actually
mil.
talking about it today. You got to be very rich in San
Nick's
Diego.
still living in he's living in a studio apartment, 200 square feet. His poor girlfriend. She's like,
Poor
"Please,
Milo.
please, Nick, can we just get a
Please,
home?
Please, sir, can we get out of this cardboard box? Yeah, 15 to 20 million on the house, and then you got to have some kind of
Where's
staff.
give me your hedonistic, like this is the one thing, like
the house. To me,
no,
that
come
is
on,
it.
like the
house?
thing
That's the
that-
hedonistic
Yeah.
purchase for you?
Really? That's your roof. What's the thing? It's like the hobby thing or the pickleball version of your.
What's your pickleball
list?
team?
Like
I wanted like a staff of like an assistant /
You want an army
activities
of
coordinator.
servants.
wait.
No,
you're
no,
in the-
driver.
You want the life staff
House
too?
manager.
This is my dream.
Life
You know this.
staff. That's
I
a
know
good
Armand's
one.
first thing is
Life
he's
staff.
getting a Pepper Potts.
Yeah, we
That's-
should have asked Armand
Life staff.
first. We've been bearing the lead. Armand is the lead. What are we buying?
I mean, right there. I mean, I've said it on this podcast many
Life
times.
staff.
Life staff.
I like that.
So it's like
You can call it a family
Steven-
office at 100 million, by the way.
Steven alluded to it. It's like you got the health guy, you got the cook, you got the chef, all that. But it's like I'm talking about every category of life. A world-class person, a person that earns at least $150,000 a year working for you, and they are the best at what they do. They're best at working your body. They're the best at cutting your hair. I mean, literally the best at everything. I want it all. That's what I would do if I had $100 million. Absolutely.
Feach says $2 million a week, DC and ETH for the next year.
Love
it.
I love that.
Would you specialize one hair cutter, one beard trimmer, or would you want that to be one
Well,
guy?
this is a great question. This really depends on their level of expertise in that category.
Well, you know, you
So,
can't be great at everything.
I don't think you can be great at both. So you might need two different experts for
At 100 mil, you can afford it.
absolutely. And I'd probably have them show up around the same time, get into a little banter, go back to
Like a
back.
four hands haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
Oh my God!
An
You
orgy at that
have a
point.
full-time beard guy.
I
yeah.
think I would do it every 3 days as well. 3 or 4. Has to be at least, every 4 days. This shit grows fast. You'd be surprised.
Tyler says it's going to be the Oprah of 8 sleeps. You get 8 sleep, you get 8
Oh
sleep.
yeah. Oh my God, that's a good idea. With 100 million, I would just buy all of our stuff that we schlep, 8 sleep, and wine, and
I mean, shit.
Yeah.
With
That's
$100
what you do
million,
with 100 million, you'd buy an 8 sleep.
No,
oh my God.
I don't
Also,
like stuff.
I'm a renter. Like, I don't like the idea of buying a lot of stuff and owning it, like the jet and all the problems that come with the jet. Then you got to hire someone to manage the jet. And then you got to answer to that person, and they take up mind space. I prefer
NetJets.
to rent. So some sort of service like that, also that allows for like variety. Like I want a G4 this week, or I want a different thing next week. And so I'm experiencing something different every time I fly. And I think that little variety zest makes it so that you don't want to shoot yourself with just, this overblown hedonic treadmill that you fall into and just become actually depressed at how much money you
I
have.
don't know.
So the
Accelerated
hardest
depreciation
part-
on that jet, probably nice to
yeah,
offset.
true. But the thing that you have to hedge against the most if you have $100 million is how do you stay happy? Like, sorry, I'm going to take a turn there, but honestly, the real most difficult thing is to stay happy when you have that level of money. How do you continue to find joy in anything, because money becomes absolutely meaningless at post-economic level?
Ooh, is that a teaser for later in the episode?
Maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Ooh, opening a loop.
You guys wouldn't see me. I'd be traveling nonstop. I would just be gone. I
Well,
would-
can we come?
yeah, you guys
All right.
come.
All right, thanks.
You didn't even think about it.
Dude, like, I'll be gone.
No,
Okay, if anybody here gets $100 million, we are all going on a jet-setting adventure as friends around the world. We're all doing that. We're all you're paying for all the other people. It's a pact, okay?
I mean, I feel like that should be like a quarterly obligation.
and now you're no longer invited.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to qualify.
Well, I think as the
Maintain
person here who is
friendship.
most likely to be worth $100 million, I am okay taking that deal. No, I'm not the person. You're the person.
Yeah. I'm
the person.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which
Armand's
is
the
why
person.
I'm okay with that deal
Okay.
happening.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah, whoever gets 100 million first has to pick up the podcast.
This
tab.
man's got outs. He's an AI founder.
Oh boy. All right. We'll
All right,
get
guys.
there.
All right.
Like the YouTube video if you're streaming with us right now, watching either right now
Yes,
or
please.
after, like it, subscribe if you haven't. Also, if you want to have a little fun with us and throw a comment up on the screen, you can donate to the podcast. You go to streamlabs.com/alfalfapod. Use the PayPal link there. And I think Daddy Tunsky's still up on the leaderboard there of daddiest of them
leaderboard?
all. Yeah,
Daddiest of them all.
pull it up there if you can, Jordan, and then you could spam it in the chat.
Yeah, let's show it
if
in
you
the.
like.
Are you
screen
showing
share,
that
too,
live?
how it works.
Yeah, he's
So,
all the way
yeah,
at
it
the
has
top.
like
No,
a-
he's got like a gold thing at the top.
I can't believe
so there it
Rectum
is.
gets up in the morning knowing that he's number 2 on that leaderboard. Like, man has no
Has
self-respect.
he ever been number 2 in anything? That's wow. Wow.
Like having the second biggest quads in the gym.
Also, you can do this at any time throughout the week, right, Nick? Then
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
just
And
talk
if
about
you
it.
post a comment, and we'll check it. We'll read it on the.
Doesn't have to
on the
happen
pod.
live. If you're listening to the podcast right now, you can still do this at any time, and then we'll talk about it live next week.
Yeah, it's meant to be a fun thing. You can do it live if you want, but obviously anytime.
Totally.
Anytime. Okay, so we're gonna do a little lightning round stuff here. I don't know if I've been able to moderate a lightning round, so feel free
Let's
to push
do
me
it.
along,
I feel like I need to
boys.
sit up straight.
We're going to attempt to get high tech and throw stuff on the screen, huh?
All right, Jordan, let's cue up
Anything can happen.
Jonah Hill.
What's first on the list?
So,
Oh, boy.
Poor
we went
bastard.
a little TMZ to start this off. So Jonah Hill gets dragged for some misogynistic text.
Now, show me. Yeah,
Show the
there he
photo,
is.
yeah.
Don't show the pod
God,
topics.
he
Those are
is-
secret.
He is really going like full Russell Brand now.
Yeah, that's a good look. That's a good look. So
Damn.
what happened here, guys? It sounds like he was setting some boundaries.
Being emotionally abusive.
No, he wasn't setting boundaries, Nick. He was being emotionally abusive.
Okay,
being
sorry. He
emotionally
was being
abusive.
emotionally
Okay.
abusive by setting some
Misogynistic.
boundaries with his girlfriend. She shared it on Instagram stories or something, and then looks like the whole world just kind of like piled on Mr. Jonah here. So
Put up the text. Show me the text.
All right.
So this is Jonah's actual text message.
First of all, he's yelling just to start the whole thing off. Plain and simple. You know, it's like, whoa, calm
What
down,
if he's just
Jonah.
saying, "Yo, plain and simple"?
I don't know. I hear plain and simple.
the
So-
first one just screams insecurity.
is-
If you need surfing with men,
Okay, can we be real?
Well, you have to read some of this for the people
You
that
have to
don't
read it
have
for the people
There-
not.
okay, this
you
is
read a couple
Jonah
bullet
Hill's
points
text
here.
and says, listen, plain and simple, if you need surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friendships with men, if you need to model, to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, oh my God, what a terrible human being to do that. To post sexual pictures, friendships with women who are in unstable places, and from your wild recent past beyond getting a lunch or coffee or something respectful, then I'm not the right partner for you. No hard feelings. These are my boundaries. Let me know.
Yeah.
So, can I just come out and say, like, I think this is insane. I think this is super insecure to say you can't take photos of yourself in a bikini. Get a life, bro.
And she's a
Like,
pro surfer, right?
now, let's get this straight. He
She's
has
pro
the
surfer.
right. He has the right to ask for anything. You always in your relationship have the right to come to a mutual agreement with your partner and ask for something. And your partner has the right to say yes or no. So this is what he's saying his boundary is. I think that is a unhealthy level of boundary. What woman doesn't have? Who doesn't want to see their girl in a bikini once in a while? And yeah, every girl has 1 or 2 bikini photos.
isn't
on
it
their
kind of her
Instagram
job
feed.
though? A pro surfer, like you're gonna get pictures taken
He's
of you. And,
way over the line.
Yeah.
Way over the line.
I mean,
What were the other
I
things?
went through her Instagram, and it doesn't even crack like the top
She's
50
not
of like
even
just
one of
women I
those-
know around here. It's
Yeah,
like,
she's not even one of those.
It's about. It's about.
I just had
it's
to.
about like a 2 out of 10.
I had
in
the desire to
schedule
ask
scale.
who the top
Traps.
4 are. don't mention who the
Oh,
top 4 are.
no, I am no. I don't even go on Instagram.
I mean-
anymore,
I'm on the
so.
side of like my analysis is really simple on this. It's like a little insecure. He's obviously coming from a place where he's trying to be controlling. He's being a controlling dude. Is he being emotionally abusive? No. Is
Yeah, but-
he communicating his terms very clearly and respectfully? Actually, yes.
Is this-
and she has
is
the
this
opportunity to opt out.
misogynistic?
He's not even within 1% of what misogyny means. Like, that's not misogynistic in any shape or form whatsoever. I mean, that's just so indicative of like what's going on in society to even think that you can call such a thing misogynistic. He's just having a conversation. I think he's being insecure, but he's not being.
but deal breaker on her part, screenshot the text and
So that's
blast
what
it
I
on
wanted to
social
talk
media.
about. Like, if he's not being misogynistic, then what's she being by putting their entire
We'll read the quote.
thread
This
on
is the
blast?
best part.
Okay, read it.
Okay. So she was asked to reply to why she shared these texts on Instagram publicly. since they're, supposed to be between her and him. And she said, keeping it to myself was causing more damage to my mental health than sharing it could ever do.
What the fuck?
That is really hard to understand. That's like a fucked up statement.
Sounds.
It is so unbearable for me to keep this private information about this celebrity boyfriend of mine inside my head that I had to share it on Instagram because it was serving so much pain for my mental health.
You had to share it with strangers. Like you couldn't
poor
just
victim.
couldn't have shared it with like your close friend group or something.
Victim culture, man.
Why do you think everybody wants to just dump their whole life on social media now? Like, it's not anything I've ever.
Because they don't have 3 friends pushing a dopamine detox.
Well, okay, Steven, you're the one that told us about this. Do you disagree with my take? Like, do you have a different perspective on this?
I think this is actually pretty nuanced. I think it's clearly not misogynistic. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking for what you want in a relationship for boundaries, like
Right.
between 2 consenting adults. And he wasn't like, he was basically just like, I need this, and if not, it's cool. Like, no hard feelings. So, I don't know. Like, maybe there's stuff happening that we don't see. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a little unreasonable to date a professional surfer and not expect her to post pictures of a bathing suit on her Instagram. So that's also a little weird.
Controlling also be like, you need to stop being friends with your friends. Your wild recent past.
I
Like,
don't
get away
think
from
so, actually. I think some people have people in their lives who are like super toxic, and if they sort of like intrude about, like, that's a perfectly acceptable deal breaker, I think, if people are like that bad. And like, I don't know, like that definitely can exist.
It's a little controlling.
I don't think it's controlling. I think it's just like, look, I don't want to deal with that, and if you want to do that, that's cool. No hard feel like that.
Yeah,
That's
I
fine.
guess the way to communicate it more effectively would be like, we should be on the same page about who we spend time with, and we should surround ourselves with good people. Obviously, it's just a passing text, but
That's nice.
Yeah.
I like the way that you. I like the way you
delightful.
thank you.
manage that.
Well, we all have
massaged
to
it.
do that when you first meet somebody. I'm sure you guys have
But
been
I also
through that.
I don't know that you do, because I kind of agree with Steven where it's like if you just don't want to, then you don't have to. And he's not forcing her to change. He's just saying you're not going to be with me then.
There was another one that was over the line, though. It was like you can't do something with, you can't be friends with guys, certain kind of guys.
I don't
I
know,
said
that's
boundaryless
Yeah.
relationships with men,
I
which
don't
is
know what that
also
means.
completely reasonable, I think. I don't know. I see
That's
two
a-
people.
that's a
I see
hard
two
one,
people
yeah.
here who are like mildly insecure. Jonah looks slightly more chill, even though what he's asking
that
is
was the
sort
one
of-
I was saying. Surfing with men. She's not allowed to surf with men.
Yeah, the
How do you
surfing
do
with
that?
men's
How do
a
you-
little weird.
That's like saying, like, Armand, when you go play soccer, make sure it's not co-ed.
Or like when you go to work.
It's like saying I
when
can't.
you go to
it's
your
like saying
job,
I
make
can't-
sure-
I can't play mixed doubles.
When you go to the
Absolutely.
office, make sure
It
there's
is
no women in the
exactly like
office.
saying that.
like that would be.
And make
the
sure you tell
first
them what to
one-
wear before they come to pickleball mixed doubles.
I think the first point he picked like set him off in the wrong direction there, but
All right, let's move on. Let's move on away from TMZ
All right,
corner. That
dump
was
it.
a nice little.
Let's talk about
Nice.
something-
Yeah, good one.
So the next one up is Perplexity.ai. So Armand, you brought this little alfalfa. I think you got it from someone in the community,
yeah,
right?
I got this from Eric P on Threads. We've been threading.
Oh, what? You,
Yeah.
Separately, away from all of us?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm first million threader. Yeah. You guys are post 100 million. You haven't even signed up yet. So I asked a question on Threads, which, by the way, I know we're going to talk about later, so I'll save my thoughts on Threads to be separate. And I said, what is the best software that you've discovered lately? The best tool, the best software you've discovered lately? And he came out and said, Perplexity. And I said, well, how do you use this in comparison to every other AI sort of chatbot tool? And he said, well, ChatGPT is great for like most things by default.
Right.
But if you're doing deep research and you need sources to back up your research, this is amazing. And I agree. Like, it links directly. So I showed you guys the example to prep for this episode around mental health. And it's like, it's giving you the sources to information. You can go deeper, you can go more micro, you can go more macro, and you can do really good deep work with this. And I'm only 2 days into using it, but it's amazing. I'm really impressed by it.
Ricky. Ricky boy,
Welcome to the
what's
club,
How's
up?
it,
Ricky
bruv?
bruv.
Mahalo. Ricky's Hawaiian.
Okay, but
Yeah?
how's it, bruv?
Yeah.
Love it.
Can I say bruv in Hawaii?
You can say whatever you want,
Okay.
man.
What would they say?
I have no boundaries.
Wow, so not controlling of you. So there's a lot of room for these tools to rise to the surface right now, and I think we're just going to have, flavor of the month sort of chatbots, or what I think is like a lot of chatbots will come out with a certain tone and a certain culture. One of the things I love about ChatGPT is how kind it is and how the tone. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Sam Altman has discussed this, that and he has that croaky voice that's really hard to listen to lately. I can't. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do you guys know what
I've never heard him
croak-
speak.
Do you guys know what croak
Is that like vocal fry?
It's vocal fry. That's what it is. I had to look this up.
I love this.
Yeah, what is that?
I find it attractive in women.
It's a thing that a lot of women are doing. A lot of women are doing.
I
these
saw it
days.
in a YouTube comment. People were just like analyzing, like, what's up with the vocal fry? And then I did a
Yeah,
little
vocal
deep
fry's a
research.
thing.
I didn't know it was a thing. So he's discussed how he intentionally wanted ChatGPT to have a very kind tone. And I think that each of these platforms will sort of develop a personality, but eventually you'll also be able to customize that personality. Maybe you want a bad bitch New Yorker vibe, and you want it to be really direct with you, and that's up to you. And you'll be able to customize that in the future on these platforms. So, yeah, I mean, have you guys played with it? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Since you showed us yesterday, and
Yeah, I played around with it
I
a
like
little
it.
bit. Is
Yeah,
this
good
going
for
up on
deep
the-
research.
Is this? Are we putting these up on the stream? By the way. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, show this.
Yeah. I want to make sure that people are seeing what we're talking about. Get the visuals.
Yeah, like, I mean, Jordan just typed in one phrase, vocal fry, and it's like, vocal fry, and why is it controversial? Vocal fry is showing
seems
all
like
these-
it
It's like
can
it's like
reference-
GPT with sources.
and,
Yeah.
and typically more like research studies, that kind of thing, academia.
Yeah.
And you can rabbit hole like a little bit on it.
It's great for scientists. It's great for students. It's great for professionals of all types.
Cool.
All right.
Let's
cool.
move on to Threads.
it.
Oh, it's really lightning.
Threads taking
Okay.
Yeah.
on
You're done.
Twitter. So there's been some posts about Twitter's traffic tanking, and Threads.
See
on
ya.
how many?
Steven, would you long
some
this?
On the screen of,
throw that chart up there, Jordan.
would you long this?
That is
Wait,
not
I
what
didn't
you want to see.
know that.
Oh, did you see this actually?
So Twitter
Yeah.
traffic has ported over.
This is from the CEO of Cloudflare, I believe. He tweeted this out. It's basically just showing like DNS rankings over time. He's got like Twitter's on here. Like Cloudflare runs a lot of the web infrastructure for these.
but what's
these
on the
companies, and it is-
x-axis there?
It
Time?
is
Time.
the
Okay.
x-axis is time.
So over time, Twitter
And-
traffic's going
no,
down.
No, but is that traffic on the Y then?
The Y.
It's traffic, like
that's
unique
rank.
visitors?
That's rank of like
Rank.
probably
But how,
some kind of.
I didn't know your DNS rank could change that quickly.
It can, I mean, if the traffic
You're
drops
losing
down that much, but
users.
Well, it's
I'm
not
not,
a
I'm
not
not
a chart
buying
you
it
want to
yet.
go along.
I'm
with.
not
Buying
buying
that.
it because I buy that the traffic.
You're not buying what? Threads?
Yeah. I'm not buying them like necessarily. Well, people are talking about they're taking over and that they're gonna win because they got 100 million signups such a short period of time. I don't think so. I think we need a little more time to understand like what's the engagement rate. Like they have all these signups. They obviously leverage the social graph. That was awesome. Sign up was super easy, but like we need to see monthly active users, daily active users, and we need to see that ratio of daily active users divided by monthly active users. Say if it's over like 40-50%, then they have some really good engagement and
And
people.
can we count daily active users as like not just logging into the app, but actually like engaging? Because I think there's a lot of people that have this app that don't do jack shit on it.
Yeah, then it'd be nice to know like what's the session length, the depth, the frequency, like how often are people going in there, how many screens are they
Yes.
seeing? As an advertiser though, I'm kind of pumped. Like I can't wait for them to include this in
More
the
impressions, baby.
Facebook ads. Anytime you get like a fresh traffic source, untainted.
Oh, the new traffic
Oh,
source
the
smell.
smell. It's so
God.
good.
Hide your
the
boner,
ROIs
dude.
are amazing.
Just the sequence of phrases you just used. Untainted smells so good was wow. That was a lot.
Yeah, we want that. We want that fresh traffic where no other advertisers have donned it before.
Oh man.
Have you used it yet?
Yeah.
I feel like I could see you as a threador.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about it. My summary so far is that it gave me Clubhouse vibes, and it in the sense that there was like this good vibes, deep connection happening. But whereas Clubhouse was synchronous, this is asynchronous. It also gave me early Facebook vibes where you wanted to connect with your friends, like your real life friends became your friends online for the first time, and you started to just like expand your friend network and see how people were doing. So there's some good things going on, and obviously like the Twitter UI is really easy. People understand it. It's proven. They copied it exactly.
Is there a character limit on Threads?
It's like 500
Okay.
or something. I could be wrong.
I feel
it's
like
like 300,
it's
500.
like almost like
It's
a
longer.
carbon copy of
It's a carbon copy.
Twitter.
However, well, it's first of all, in terms of like I could say it's missing this feature or that feature. It's absolutely missing a bunch of features, and
It's brand new.
it's brand new. But my deeper problem beyond the surface is that I don't think the engagement is real and deep, like and sustainable from what I see today.
like it's more like TikTok-y, or it's
I don't know how to explain it. I think
kind
that,
of like a
that the
ephemeral
algorithm
engagement.
is like at odds with itself. Like it's trying to figure out what to do. You only have one feed right now, and it's just like mostly people you don't follow. It's trying to inject like content in front of you, but it's not clear like what actually creates engagement. It appears to be comments. Like if you start threads and it seems like very different from Twitter in that sense. It's almost like the purpose of it is to start a conversation. And the more you start a conversation and you get comments, the better. But I'm not so sure that the organic reach, when you first find a new platform and the organic is like on fire, like LinkedIn.
Yeah, I figured
or
they were doing
TikTok,
that with
it's
this.
not that good. Like it's not that good because what's happening is everyone who signs up for the platform is, I think like 90% of people are hitting the button where it's follow everyone I follow on Instagram.
Yeah, of course.
So then what's happening is you're just following a bunch of people and you're not really seeing their content, but then mostly you're seeing other people's content that you're not following. So no one's feeling like they're getting engagement is my take so far. Yeah.
I've wondered if like Alfalfa would do well there actually, and I've thought about like posting there and just doing like Twitter is like the crypto and money thing, but then using Threads for just like the rest of everything else that's in the Discord. Like I kind of get the vibe that the Discord atmosphere would do well.
But no
Me too.
politics.
On Threads.
Yeah.
They're not very
That's
welcome to politics on
No
Threads.
news. No hard news.
Good luck with stopping that from coming in there. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't keep
They're
that
going to have
out.
the same problems that Twitter has.
That's very interesting, though, and illuminating that they would say that, isn't it? I think Matt Taibbi had a good take about that, where he was like, "This is how." Is that who it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "This is how fucked up the world has become. That these publishing platforms would do whatever it takes to stay away from needing to have any sort of relationship or accountability with corporate media. Like, there's just no winning with them." So
The last thing we should mention is that it's built on like an open standard protocol, like this activity
yeah.
hub protocol, where like I think if you wanted to, I don't know if it's even possible yet, but you could take your profile and your followers, your friends, whatever, and port it over to like Mastodon or any other app that's like powered by Activity Hub, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. I like the move to a more open internet. I was just laughing because I looked and saw Adam Snyder's comment in the
What is
chat. So Threads has a weirdly meta vibe. Most of the posts on Threads are about posting on Threads.
they are. And it's a lot of people being like, "Is this going to work, guys? Like, is this going to last? And like, how does it work?" And I want it to work because I've always I never have been a Twitter person, and I always felt like if IG had a Twitter, it would work well for me, but something's off. But I want it to work.
Yeah, I could see you being a Threads guy.
I
don't
can-
see you as
I
a Twitter
want it
guy.
to work.
You're too nice to be a Twitter guy.
Oh, thank you. Isn't IG more about the butt photo, and Twitter's more about
Yeah,
the brain?
taints, yeah.
taints. I'm more of a taint guy. Yeah.
Let's move on to coin. We got a nice little pump, boys. Coinbase
Oh yeah,
stock.
put that beautiful coin chart on the screen. I want to see that coin chart.
Let's see.
There it is.
Moon.
Oh, show that to the audience. Oh baby,
That's probably up, what?
that
like
is almost
70%?
No, that was almost 100% gain from the low.
Let's go.
In June. That's like right at that episode where we sort of called peak regulatory fear.
Yeah.
We called the buy on this almost to the exact bottom.
Well, we
that
woke up. It was
amazing.
like a Friday or something, or I forget what day it was.
The
but
FUD came out strong that day.
yeah, when that peak fear is just the stench is strong. That's when you know time to buy. So
I remember Basil in the chat too. She was like, "Yes, I agree with this take. This is a good take. Hope you bought
What's
some
it at
stock
today?
there."
It was at like 88 or something, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, we hit around like 88. It's kind of like one of those areas now where like I don't know if I want to buy more. A little bit of a resistance zone.
And we
Is
don't
it
buy
breaking
pumps.
out? Is it not?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that looks pretty.
Yeah, I don't like
don't
to
know.
buy stuff that's doubled after know.
I don't want to
2
buy
weeks, but
now, but I definitely want to buy more.
I might be just be selling puts on this puppy like forever. Out of the money, sell puts, collect the premium
on your shares or naked,
on the shares. Well, I mean, you get put to the shares if you lose,
right?
but if it's at 88, I'll sell 65.
Oh, selling puts. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'll
sorry. I
sell-
think it's selling calls.
So I'll sell 65, like on weekly. What's going on?
fucking wrecked him in the
All
chat.
right, so we had a comment in the chat that said, zoom in
Cross-
on Steven's inseam while they discuss coin.
Cross my legs real quick.
As
there.
it, I think, alluding to the arousal that Steven's getting from this chart.
Oh my god!
He's arriving.
He's arriving.
I am arriving.
On a more serious note, yeah,
As you cross your legs.
it has been interesting to me how when all the ETF stuff happened, Bitcoin kind of ripped, and it's like sort of been stalled out here in this 30K range. Like, coin has just continued to just go up only. So like the market, I think, is really like into this narrative.
Yeah.
That sort of.
I think we were
the
right on that.
institutions
I
are
think we
sort
were
of
right on
here.
that one.
The
It's gonna be.
lawsuit's not
It's gonna
gonna
be ETH. It's
anything.
gonna be Bitcoin. I think we were right on it.
Getting better
Yep.
in there.
Okay, so let's keep the crypto theme a little bit. There was a post about what are your unpopular crypto takes.
Oh, yeah.
and it went pretty viral. So Jordan, if you could find that one and pull it up on the screen here. We pulled up one in particular. So there's a bunch of unpopular crypto takes on here. I had a few I wanted to go over myself.
Yeah.
Anyone who uses the term Lindy to refer to Ethereum is a moron. I
Well-
kind of slightly agree with
Well,
this.
I'm gonna
Okay,
walk out of here.
this guy's a Solana shill.
Yeah,
By the way,
he is.
He develops software for Solana.
But when you're talking about a technology platform, like just because the one stays around longer, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to like be subject to new innovations and get wiped out. I don't think it is. I want to own
Isn't
ETH and I want to
Lindy
long
just
Ethereum, but
another way of talking about network effects? You know,
network effects would be the better argument than
that's-
it's just been around long
no,
enough. So
Lindy specifically refers to just how long it's been around. Yeah.
time.
But I guess I get what you're
I
saying.
guess, yeah, I
think
guess
they're
you're
saying network
technically
effects
correct.
is a better indicator.
Yeah, way
Yeah,
better.
no,
Way
you're
better.
right. You're right. So
Next
all right.
one I want to point
We'll
out
give him
was
that one.
there will not be a next bull/bear cycle.
This was the worst take he
bad
had.
take.
terrible.
There's a lot of bad takes in here.
Like
by the way,
I
That was
mean,
the worst of the whole pile.
real estate, stocks, equities, like everything goes through a cycle. So
yeah, over like 100+ years. there's
Businesses
been
go
cycles.
through.
Yeah,
that take
cycle.
doesn't even make
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Next.
pass.
I have a favorite
Bitcoin is
take.
extremely overrated. Isn't even a hot take.
Can I have a
Yeah.
favorite hot
Everybody
take?
thinks
Yeah,
that
what do you
now.
got?
Chart trading is astrology.
Okay, so I saw that one, and that was it's just so stupid.
It's a knee
favorite
slapper
take.
for our one.
I like that knee slap and then the exhale. Yeah.
I love when people who have
Is it
no
racist? I
they
call it
have
the
no
Persian
expertise
laugh?
in trading.
No,
they
it's the
they-
Persian laugh.
They refer to something as like astrology. It's like so ridiculous. Like I have friends who say this to me all the time too, who are like they read like took like an econ class in high school and they read like a random walk down Wall Street and they think that like there's no trading is a thing. Like this drives me crazy. There's an entire industry of people. There are literally millions of people throughout the world who trade. There's like entire like communities, everything, and the whole thing is like a fraud. Like it's just all giant. It
Well, I mean,
makes absolutely.
Are we
no
underrepresenting astrology? Maybe maybe there's like
Astrology's a big business.
like maybe astrology's real thing for like a very small minority, just like chart trading.
Noted.
Hot take.
I'll try my hack at a hot take.
okay.
So Bitcoin ETF in 2024, all right, but no ETH ETF until 2027.
Oh,
That stings a little bit.
So yeah, I think we'll get a Bitcoin spot ETF next year, but until Gary Gensler is out, which is 2026, and I don't think we're going to see some legislation pass, get signed into law for a while. So 2027, boys. I hope I'm proven
okay.
wrong.
I don't think that takes that hot. I think that's.
Ooh,
that's
I actually got
that's
one for you.
reasonable.
I got one for you. It's,
Reasonable
that's
take. What do
maybe
you got?
hot, maybe not. But I got one that I thought about. I think I saw something similar on his list. But I was thinking that decentralization is not like a. It's not even like a really noble aim. Like, I don't think decentralization is any better or worse than centralization. It's like it exists on this horizontal spectrum. It's not like a step function, like vertically better.
David Hoffman just fell off Mount Rainier.
Yeah, yeah. So
just
I-
fell off.
If
I
it's
talk
not
about this.
better, then what is the purpose of
So-
Bitcoin at all?
So what I
Without
think is that you have this pendulum between centralization and decentralization that can exist, and like when the power gets too far one way, then it swings back the other way. But I don't think that it necessarily is better than centralization, because we can use examples where centralization is much better. Like, you guys run businesses, you would much prefer to have the authority within your own hands than like to have it be decentralized in the power of the people.
Can we just go into this for a minute? I know we're in the middle of lightning, but I was talking to my friend yesterday. He's a financial advisor, runs a big company, and he was like, I was like, what do you think about Bitcoin ETF? And he was like, Bitcoin's gold. That's the narrative. That's what's going to run. It's boring. It doesn't do anything. And there's going to be a huge pump once the Bitcoin ETF passes. Ultimately, what it's going to cause is mass centralization, which is exactly the opposite of what it's intended to do. And afterward, there's no new money coming in. There will be a pump. There will be a lot of new money that flows in. But what's going to be the thing that sustains this beyond that? I thought that part was interesting, but the part I'm most interested in from you guys is, what do you think about the centralization of it all, if ETFs and all
So
this stuff?
let me just finish my point here. Like, decentralization, I think, is important in this in this context. It's important because crypto right now is providing competition to the status quo, meaning like the existing power structure. Decentralization is the competition there. I think competition should be the aim. Decentralization just happens to be the vehicle for competition right now.
Yeah, I agree. You just don't want it decentralization for decentralization's sake.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I think there's people out there pushing like this decentralization maxi narrative. People like our dear friend David.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's misguided. Like, I don't think that actually has much merit.
I mean, this was the take he posted that was the best, I think, and I totally agree with that. But that's like also the core behind my like Ethereum, not Bitcoin thesis. Is this like this is a thing that I came to from like using DeFi for like 2 years. I'm like, wow, this stuff is really great in theory, but at the end of the day, I don't really want to hold DAI. I want to keep most of my net worth in like tokenized U.S. treasuries, where if like I lose my private key, I can just go to somebody and get the tokens reissued, right?
Like even Bitcoiners use dollars as a medium of exchange. Like, they prefer using the dollars.
Well, the problem with Bitcoin is that it has no optionality. It's like the whole thing is either just completely decentralized and then not particularly useful in a lot of ways, or it's sort of, to Armand's point, it just trends to like complete centralization in the other end. Like, you can't build a DEX really on Bitcoin. I guess now we're building, these layer 2 solutions like stacks on top of it. Maybe that'll work out. I don't know. But Bitcoin itself, like the fact that you can't just go online and send Bitcoin and trade Bitcoin with somebody without like having to, I don't know, go meet in a parking lot or something, like that's obviously a flaw. And so what we end up happening is we have a lot of Bitcoin centralized in like exchanges, and now we're getting it in like ETFs now.
Right.
And what I want to make sure I get to the crux of what you were asking. Like, what was the specifics you wanted?
Yeah,
to...
what is
Where's
Bitcoin
the money coming
without-
from?
Well, that too, but the centralization.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin inevitably gets centralized in my mind
Yes.
because like there is no like ETH has this whole like ecosystem that is able to flourish on ETH. Like, we have lending markets and DEXs and all of these things you need in a decentralized economy, and you can go participate in that world, or you can go on an exchange, or now we have people like Robert Leshner from Compound, building this new protocol, Superstate, which is taking real world assets like treasuries on chain, which is this kind of in between thing where you have like a real world asset, it's tokenized, it's got some properties of stuff we like in the real world, like the rule of law. And it's got some properties we like of crypto. And then you can kind of choose between these three worlds of like full decentralization, maxi, centralized systems, or somewhere in between. Bitcoin, it's like, yeah, you put it in a wallet and you bury it in your backyard, or you like keep it on an exchange, or you buy it in an ETF, and like ultimately because it doesn't have that middle ground, I feel like more and more and more and more of it is just going to get like sucked into like BlackRock ETFs or
Right.
Coinbase, you know?
And then how does value accrue over time?
Oh, just because like the ETF allows like pension deposits, like
Yeah.
money just flows in.
Whereas
systematically.
value will accrue
consistently
yeah.
and systematically.
Yeah.
Like over. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's
Number,
kinda like,
I think
it's a
number's going
weird
to go
thing.
up.
Sure.
Yeah, number will go up. Like in the short term, I think you're fine. I think number
Yeah.
goes up. Number probably doesn't go up as much as the other numbers, though.
Over time.
And in the long run, I think there's like big question marks. But also, in the long run, we're all dead. So
In the long run.
yeah.
Well, until we're immortal. All right, cool. Do we have another?
I'm excited about this last one because I finally get to talk about a little Formula One on the
Oh
podcast.
yeah,
So
Ryan.
Ryan Reynolds and Rob McKenney. Anyway, they bought into a Formula One team. I think they put about $250 million in, bought like 25% of the Alpine Formula One team. They previously bought into Wrexham, which we mentioned previously.
Oh, it's that same group,
Same group.
partnership,
Same
Okay.
group. So, you had this Netflix documentary that just blew up the sport, and then other sports copied it: golf, tennis. You have Ryan Reynolds and his squad buying a thing. Brad Pitt is currently filming a Formula One movie, like on the tracks with Formula One drivers.
Oh, really?
So I'm bullish Formula One. Like I've kind of like ramped up my enthusiasm about it over the last 2-3 years, and I want to know, Eric, since was it the Manchester United play you had?
Yeah,
Yeah. Is there a way to play Formula One in the equities market?
yeah. There's a stock. I think the ticker symbol is FWON, and there's two. There's like a K shares and an A shares. So it's FWONK and FWONA. Most of the volume happens on the K shares. The difference is pretty negligible. One has voting rights, one doesn't. Doesn't really matter.
Okay.
This thing's pretty hard to analyze, but I'm like more interested in like talking about Formula One with you guys to understand it better, because so I was looking at this stock a long time ago. I didn't buy it. It has like probably like 7x on me since I didn't buy it. So Formula One, the entity, has a bunch of teams, right? And like there's owners of the teams, like you mentioned, Ryan Reynolds,
Right.
but like the Formula One, the organization, is owned by Liberty Media. Liberty Media is like a conglomerate. It pretty much runs like a private equity company.
They own
So
like the Atlantic Braves or
they
something
own
like
the
that?
Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
That's like when I was looking at the Atlanta
The
Braves.
owners of the Braves own Formula One.
Yeah. So I actually
Wow.
bought the Atlanta Braves stock, and that 3x. So I bought that instead of the 7x on the
You should just
Formula
launch
One.
a sports
only
Yeah,
ETF.
long only.
Well,
On his second
there's
sports only
there's only
podcast.
there's only four stocks. It's Manchester United, Formula One, Braves, and New York Knicks. So that's the whole ETF. But yeah, with Formula One, I remember when I was looking at the Braves, I noticed this Formula One thing, and this was before Drive to Survive documentary came out on Netflix. But I remember on the earnings call they were talking about it, and I remember thinking
Really?
like, who gives a fuck about your stupid documentary, dude? So Formula One has grown immensely since then. It's like a very popular European.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it's like
spectacle.
soccer, where it was like one of the most popular international sports, but U.S. could care less about it.
And now
then-
the U.S. cares.
Yeah, so the documentary came out, and you can see by where they're racing now. So before they only had one race in Austin. 2 years ago they started in Miami. This year in November they're starting in Vegas. So you have 3 new races that are debuting in the U.S. They purposely pointed at this market, and every team is excited that they're going to capitalize on the U.S. market. So I think the growth is going to continue in the U.S. market from sponsors. You have Ford that's announcing a partnership with Red Bull to make better engines and electrical engines come 2026. So the corporations are flooding in. There's new applications to become a team, which the teams need to decide, do we want to let in someone on our rev share? And are they going to actually pump the revenue up? Are we all going to make more money if we let in new teams? So you got like Audi, Porsche looking to get in. And another thing is they're maximizing the revenue. So they're going from 22 races to 24 races next year. So that's an easy win in revenue. And then typically on a race weekend, you have qualifying on Saturday, you get the race on Sunday. That's where the money comes in. They started adding this third thing called the sprint race. It's a mini race before the big race. And they've done it in 6 races, I think this year is what they got. And so it's just another moneymaker. They're like, optimizing some of the monetization here.
So let me
It's
steel
the same
man you.
race, but just smaller.
Let me
Yeah,
steel man you
it's-
for a
it's
second.
done.
Like we all, like if you've ever followed any multinational corporation, you know that like the U.S. drives most of the revenue, and if the U.S. is like small for these guys, then it will become big and probably the biggest.
Yep.
So for that reason, I'm in. Here's the reasons why I'm like kind of out. First and foremost, I don't think that your analysis is correct on the number of races. I think they've actually gone down. I think they had like 26 and they went down to 25 and down to 24, not 22 up. But you know, I only started looking at this yesterday. But
Cool.
So I don't think there's like much. So there's three ways to make money in this game. One is broadcasting rights. The other is sponsorship, and the third one they call like promotion, which is like their race day type of activities. I think the race day activities are pretty compelling. You've been to these things. They're kind of like a Super Bowl, each one of them.
Over the course of a weekend, we're talking 400,000 people in the event. Like,
And it's
Crazy
That's
how
a
many people
lot.
it
It's a
draws.
Big event.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Rod have like dropped significant dollars to get into like the VIP hospitality or whatever.
it's not cheap. Those prices have 5x'd since
Right.
Just
2019.
since 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
A few years ago.
Yeah, 5x'd.
So
That's what Netflix will do for you.
So to invest in this stock, first of all, it's at a $45 billion market cap right now. If you like pull up the ticker on like Yahoo Finance or something, it's gonna quote you something wrong, and because it doesn't include the convertible shares, and so it's not like a diluted number. So that's actually wrong. And I think like when you take their like fundamentals, Steven, like when you take their like revenue and stuff, they're trading at like 20 times sales.
What'd you name me with that?
Because you hate fundamentals. Like it's like a 1%.
Can you draw a triangle though?
It's a 1% free cash flow yield, which is not very good. I mean, you know, if the broad market is trading at like a 3% free cash flow yield, then you expect it to grow 3 times faster than the market, which it might, but you're baking in that assumption. You know, it has 10x since Liberty Media bought it in 2017. So I kind of feel like you might be late to the game now.
Okay.
But Formula One, I've never been interested in Formula One. I'm wondering why you find this fun at all, because they just drive around in a circle.
No, they don't. They go
actually
left and
don't
right.
drive
You're thinking
in a
of
circle.
NASCAR.
That's NASCAR.
Okay, so they go left and right. Here's what I thought about. Here's what I thought about driving cars. I was like, what would make this fun for me is if you had like different types of cars and they could also collide, and you would like
And they had like a banana peel they could throw out.
all of that. Like you basically make a car that could get to the finish line first with a bunch of other shit going on.
You're right, Steven. He just described Mario Kart. Yeah.
Because like in sports, you don't always just have the fast guys. Like
I don't know. The main problem with Formula One is just the money. Like the money that goes into the teams and the fact that the team with the most money wins.
They instituted a spending cap, like
I
a
saw that.
cap, but
It's just not unpredictable enough. You know, Hamilton was the GOAT for like 7 years, and then Verstappen was like, his technology was just slightly behind, younger guy, higher stamina, more skilled, just needed a little bit of a boost, technology-wise, better car. Now he has a better car.
Now he's dominating.
It's game over.
Yeah.
But now it's like the only way to beat him is he messes up. Like that's it. He has to mess up.
yeah, I mean, he is that dominant. But it's interesting that his teammate with the same car is not dominating.
But that just shows the gap in skill.
Sure.
So there is a skill factor, but the skill factor is so much smaller than the car factor.
Yeah, you also got to be interested in a little bit of the technology and like how these
Well, that's
teams are
the most
advancing
fun
and the
part.
strategy
It's
of
really
like how they
cool.
develop the cars and which
I
races
love
do
it.
they do it. And
I love it. I just wish there was a little bit more of like, you know, some people in soccer complain about like certain leagues in certain countries.
Yeah.
It's like Real Madrid is always gonna, Barcelona is all, but it's like in like I don't know, in Germany. You kind of well, no, Germany's a terrible.
Well, like
example. Bayern Munich
Leicester
always
won
wins.
the Premier League
But that
like
was
a couple
that,
years
that
ago.
never happens.
Right.
That was a complete. England though is, I would say, probably the most competitive league in the world,
Yeah.
where you don't know who the top four is going to be every year. It's always kind of
Yeah.
a surprise.
So-
And I think if Formula One had more of that,
Let me do one more
It'd be
thing
nice.
that Mark Cuban mentioned this when he bought the Dallas Mavericks a while ago. He mentioned this one thing about the NBA, which I think applies here. He's like, I think the NBA is going to close the gap on the NFL as like the most popular sports league. which it has. NFL still dominates, but it has closed the gap. And he said for this reason, he's like, because we don't cover our heroes' faces, like it allows the fans to sort of like really get involved in this like hero worship, because you can see Kobe's face as he like turns it on and goes Mamba mode and like, you know, like shows his teeth, and then, you know, it's like,
And maybe that's why the documentary just exploded it, because no one had ever seen their
that's
faces
exactly
before.
right. It's like this new media allowed you to get close to these drivers when otherwise you don't have any connection at all.
Man, I
like
like,
that too.
having
Daniel
like
Ricciardo.
Oh, he's back, baby.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He's a good little marketing tool.
He's
See if he's
so
still a
good.
good racer.
God.
I like having a CFA on the squad. I can just feel like I'm Peter Lynch. Just see something in the world. Well, that looks like it makes money.
This is like a super,
Eric, does it
this
make
is like
act-
a super interesting convo. actually.
CFA corner.
But I
wanna-
like I'm sort of bearish, but I feel like the stock's gonna go up
Yeah, maybe just
So-
not as good risk return as it used to be, obviously.
after the 10x. I mean,
So let's move on a little bit here. We
All right, let's
mentioned
move on.
Brad Pitt has the Formula One movie coming out, and I forget when we were talking about it. I think it was yesterday.
This isn't the lightning round. This is like the main event.
Yeah, we're going on the main
We're
event
going,
now. So
we're going a little
Okay,
deep.
so we're
going
gonna
deeper
explore
now.
this one.
yeah, we're gonna
exploring.
explore this one.
We should
We're
have a
gonna
sound
get
drop.
messy.
Settle in.
We're
We should
gonna
get a
get
sound drop that was
gray.
like bum,
Settle
bum,
in,
bum.
We
everybody.
do need a sound. It's like lightning, and then now
We need
messy
we need a
gray.
cue so that people.
Yeah, the main event.
Yeah.
Well, if you just let me speak, I could cue it up.
Sorry, I didn't
guy.
talk for like 14 seconds, so I got very answer there.
This intro sucks. Moving. But anyway, we were talking about how Brad Pitt came out and said he had some mental health issues. I think he described it as like, low grade depression. And I mean, out of most people, you think someone like Brad Pitt has got it pretty good in general, would be pretty happy with like all their accomplishments, maybe their God-given good looks and whatnot. So if this guy isn't happy, like, are we fucked? Are we all going to be mentally ill at some point? Like, can we go down this a little bit when you see someone like Brad Pitt saying he's got issues?
Oh boy.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
really triggered you about this? Was it like God, like what Nick said, like even
Could you tell he was triggered by the way he rubbed his face just there, or what do you mean? Like what?
Well,
well, I didn't mean triggered in a bad. I meant like good
Yeah.
triggered.
why did I notice this? Well, first
I
of
didn't
all,
want to say what turned you on. 'Cause
I think to answer your question, Nick, like, no, we're not screwed, because I think that the reason. Wow, this is such a big topic. I mean, there's so much about the complexity of a celebrity's life that automatically can cause depression in and of itself. That's actually a difficult life. But me saying that might trigger a lot of people. It's like, this person has the God-given good looks. He can have sex with any woman he wants, or if it's a woman, they can have sex or marry anybody that they want. They can have as many kids as they want without fear of financial stress. They can get the movies they want. Everyone recognizes them and loves them for the work that they do. They drive the car they want, the house they want, the jet they want. I mean, everything when it comes to wanting and desire is just like check, check, check. So they're desire machines. And there's very few desires that they never are able to actually achieve. It's kind of the opposite of normal existence. You know, Naval, I told you guys this, like, I've really focused on having one desire. This Eastern principle of desire is suffering. Well, if you know that the desire is what creates the suffering, then you contain it to one thing and you try to prevent it from seeping out into the rest of your life, because you know that you're just going to start to desire more in every area of your life and be unfulfilled. So peace and satisfaction comes from very limited desire and more gratitude than anything. But say you had a button that you could push where everything you desired you could have. What I'm trying to get to is that I believe that it's not just Brad Pitt that has this low-grade depression. I think they all do. I think most of them,
Celebrities, you're saying?
absolutely. I think that to not
But what
would
about?
be an incredible accomplishment.
Okay, what
and
if
I'd
we-
love to actually analyze, like, if they would be honest, how do you do that? How do you have the satisfaction button, desire
But,
button
like-
on unlimited? You have a genie with unlimited wishes. How are you still happy?
If I accept that, then what is driving the depression amongst non-celebrities? We have like rampant
Yes.
mental and problems, depression, and whatever amongst non-celebrities that don't have the button you're describing.
Yeah, so my first reaction was like, oh my God, Brad Pitt, depressed. That doesn't make sense. Thought more about it, arrived here. But then we kind of led to this kind of, situation of this epidemic and this really what is going on in society. Why are 1 in 3, 1 in 4 girls suicidal?
Jordan, can you pull this
Yeah, put
stat
that
up
chart
on the
up. What
screen
is
here?
it?
Why are teenagers so hopeless, so aimless, so suicidal, so depressed, so anxious? And why is that number increasing? What is it about the state of society today? Is it the state of society today? Is it an internal issue? Is it what we're eating? Is it what we're drinking? Is it the lack of exercise? Is it that they're on social media? And when you begin to sort of grasp at these various strings, it appears to be a very multivariate problem, but a huge one. I mean, you don't want to be in a world where almost the majority of people are, and we start to encapsulate this now by just saying, I have a mental health issue. Well, what does that mean? It means that your general disposition toward life is challenging and negative. It means that your existence is not a positive one. You're
Right.
suffering. That's really sad, and I think we need to dig into why.
So yeah, for those people who are listening, up on the screen, we had a chart that showed high school students. So we're talking about Gen Z. I think typically they show increasing likelihood of like sadness and essentially depression since like, I don't know, 2015, 2017 is where it really starts to ramp up.
We've been hockey sticking. a
Hockey
little
sticking,
bit,
exactly.
yeah.
This is what this chart shows. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've kind of used the social media like issue as one, why each generation continues, why each cohort essentially continues to get a little more depressed. Is that as
It's an
simple as
easy
that?
scapegoat.
But is it as simple as that?
I feel
It's
like no,
Occam's
probably
razor.
not.
Okay.
I
Do
feel like
do
you
think
have.
social media is one of the core variables.
I think it undoubtedly is. I think to be like, what is that saying? Like comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
That's I didn't make that up, right? That's a real thing.
You did not
Okay.
make that up.
Yeah, when you are able to sort of compare yourself to other, like you just feel worse unless you are the best. But even then, when you are the best, like this other kind of thing paradoxically happens where you're just like, what do I even have to do anymore, right? So it's kind of weird, but yeah, obviously with like TikTok and social media and everything else, like everybody is comparing themselves, like not just to the people like immediately around them, but like everybody in the world. Which means if you have like the
They're-
wrong mindset, then you can find somebody
Steven,
who's better than you.
They're comparing themselves to a fake person. The person that is popular on social media that we all compare ourselves to is photoshopped, lying about everything about their life, only posting the highlights, and literally like at a place at this point where a couple filters can make you look like a supermodel.
Yeah, they're
So,
probably
like,
depressed too. The people who post the
Absolutely.
content.
but it's bad for everybody.
Yeah.
And the person that they're comparing themselves to is completely fake.
Yeah, we have an interesting perspective on this because we live in like ground zero of like, influencers, right?
Southern
We're like
California.
Southern California, right? So I've known a lot of these people throughout my life, and like the vast majority of them are not happy people, right? Just anecdotally, they're all like,
Well, they're addicts.
yes, in a particular way, they are
They're addicts to the platform.
and
That's the
it-
saddest part.
And it like and I've been out in California for like 13, 14 years now, and it just got to the point where like when I saw that on social media, my brain would immediately be like, oh, that person's not having a good time. It wasn't like, oh, like I want to be. I was just like, oh no, I know all the stuff that's happening there. So that's definitely one thing, but like there's a distinction between what's happening, I think, to the young people, but like you also have like people in middle America who are like older, who are depressed and dying of like oxy overdoses and stuff like that. And I think it's like not the same thing, actually. I mean, maybe in one sense it is. Like I think like the middle America thing is like kind of, I think you can isolate that a little more. You had a lot of people who were like maybe stripped of their sense of purpose and like why they were here. I think like humans like really, really need that. And when that's gone, like, oh, that hurts. I think when you're younger, you're supposed to be searching for that, right? In a way, I think a lot of young people maybe don't know what their purpose is yet. So that shouldn't, but like yet something is also happening there. But I think it's I think it's different there. I don't think I'll just throw this out there. Like I don't think it's social media self. I think the larger problem is that the culture that we have today is like sending this message to people about what they should want and what will make them happy. And it's like a bit of an oversimplification, but it's largely a culture of like be your true self and pursue all of your sort of innate desires, and nothing you want to do that it's all good. Nothing is bad, and if you just sort of live like this sort of hedonistic life, you will be happy. And the world has been like trying to like kind of restrain you from doing that for so long. And I think a lot of people follow that message. It's like very seductive, but it's kind of like not gratifying on the other end of it. And I could probably develop that a little better, I think, but I'll just throw that out there for you and see what you.
I think you guys are all talking about symptoms. I think the cause was almost perfectly synthesized by our Ted Kaczynski. I think he nailed it.
Oh man, I'm so sad I wasn't there for that.
You
guys are all wrong.
In his manifesto,
You guys
in his manifesto
yelling at
so
my car.
at like number 56 or something, he mentions how people are going to lose their way because of these three categories that he defines as like effort categories. He says category number 1 is things that you can achieve with low effort. Category 2 is things that you can achieve with immense effort, and category 3 are things that you cannot achieve no matter how much effort you put in. And he says that modern society has pushed all of tier 2 into tier 1 and 3. And I think that is the cause. Like, we can dig deeper on it, but I think he synthesized it perfectly.
Everything is too easy to get.
Too easy
and
to get.
Some things are impossible
to get.
That fits into what I'm saying in a way, though, right? Like a
does.
lot of the things in life that are really gratifying and meaningful are ultimately hard. They ultimately go against a lot of your base instincts, and then you have to have this sort of struggle with them to get to the other side, right? And I think what you're saying kind of fits in with that. Like we've built a society where we strip all of that away, and there's no struggle there. And then not only is there no struggle to get there, where you are is totally good, and you don't need to get anywhere. You're perfect
his
the way
his
you
conclusion, which I agree with, is that you will lose meaning without that struggle or anything.
Is
Like,
Ted Kaczynski going to be like the go-to philosopher of this podcast? Like, is that what's happening at this
I don't
point?
think that's what's happening.
I think that's
this is
what's
just.
happening.
I think it's just one little point that's being brought up.
Gets brought up.
you
Like,
made a-
nobody
you made a
on
good
this
point.
podcast is-
and it's just like Ted Kaczynski was right about this.
Well, he was right about that.
Look,
Ted
the man
Kaczynski
was right about
solved
that.
Everything.
I mean, I don't want you to fall into a situation where you dismiss the idea because the guy was a fucktard. I mean, like
I
the
think
idea is good.
Okay. Well, then I'd be going into Ted Kaczynski episode talk if I respond to that. So I'll abstain. But I think you're right, and I think you're right. I think that what you're saying, Stephen, is you encapsulated sort of a condition of society today that a lot of people don't put words to or think about. But I think what it comes down to for a lot of people is like it actually started with our generation, where it was like you can be anything. You can do anything, buck the system, laptop lifestyle, 4-hour work week. Like
Girl boss.
Yeah.
You can have it all.
started with our
It's
generation.
It's like this kind of, I don't want to call it like a mass delusion, but there's this messaging that's spread to everybody that everybody can do everything
and
they
then
want to.
everyone
and
became like a
everybody's beautiful
network
and-
for the same idea
Yeah.
and pushed the same idea, then used like either affiliate marketing or online marketing to push the idea, to make money on the idea. But I think they were selling a fugazi in many ways. And what they discounted was that, I mean, the hard work thing I think is a critical part of it. Like there's joy in hard work. But also I think what they sold that was the lie is that there's this like one great purpose for your life and you just have to find it. And as moment you find it, you're happy because that's what every influencer is selling. Look at me, I'm so aligned with my purpose. And then all these fake spiritual gurus are the worst of them all. The snake oil salesmen of them all are the ones that sell spirituality in this like package of, all you got to do is follow my 7-step framework for happiness and you'll be happy. just like some of the worst shit I've ever seen. And so then you're a young kid and you're looking up to these people and you're going like, he or she has got the money, got the girl or the guy. They've got the following, they've got the clout. They must be onto something, but it's a complete lie. But I still think there's so much more to this. I think it's not just.
No, it's not one thing.
It's not the one thing, but I will say this is also really ironic. Isn't it ironic that the number one like career choice for young people is the YouTuber. Star, like YouTube influencer, but then ironically that is the very thing that is causing the condition of unhappiness.
I was at a barbecue this weekend, and there was I don't know, he looked like he was like 9, 10 years old. And we were asking his dad, like, is he into sports? He's like, no, he's into, he's going to YouTube camp this summer.
Camp
For YouTube to learn how to become a YouTuber.
Should we go? Should we go?
We probably need to go.
Edmund, so long.
What do you guys think are
that's a good comment. I like
some
that.
other factors here? I mean, I like that framework, Eric, but
I still can't see how you escape the social media thing, because like everything you're mentioning, it gets amplified. Like those opinions would not be amplified. They would not become the monolith, the like definition of our generation if these mediums didn't exist to like amplify that message.
okay. So are you saying I get offline and I'm happy?
No.
Okay, can I ask a question? Like, in some ways, are things objectively worse?
Great question.
Because like I'm not a person who struggles with this stuff, but I do find little pockets in my life where I am becoming disillusioned. And I talked to you guys about this yesterday, but like politics is one of these areas and where I'm becoming disillusioned because I see no realistic outcome of success. All I see is like a trend of like polarization. I see a trend of basically getting elected on a policy of giving away more and more. And that's like, I'm going to give away more than the other guy, so elect me. And then that just like begets itself further and further. So I'm becoming disillusioned on that. Like that is a narrow niche where I'm like unhappy. Like I'm unhappy with politics and I don't see a way out, sort of. So
you feel helplessness in a way. I think this is a huge undercurrent in the Zoomer depression, is like just the feeling like if you feel so
You're never
powerless
going to be able to buy a house
in the world.
You're never going to be able
like
to.
you think that the oceans are boiling and the boomers don't care, and you can't afford a house like under any reasonable mathematics that you do for your life, and everybody running the country is like 78, and you just look around and you just think everything's on fire and there's nothing you can do about it. I think that sense of powerlessness like obviously can like kind of permeate not just you but like a whole generation of people. I think that it's like super pernicious, and I think it's definitely like a root cause there.
I think so. Health is down, and the sort of like political climate turmoil is also up, and these things definitely.
We're talking about the last 5 to 10 years, roughly.
Yeah.
And we just had an acceleration of isolation of, that I think took all these things and maybe ramped it up in order of magnitude of everyone kind of being isolated for 2 years. I mean, you can't, exclude that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, like that was the thing that we all talked about, and we said like, and I think we need to make sure to not forget that these could just be downstream effects, and we may not have yet even seen the bottom of the downstream effects of isolation and pandemic.
We had to force ourselves to have a routine to get together in person to communicate with each other in person,
broke
to
laws.
chat. Yeah, broke laws like rented Airbnbs, said, hey, we're going to meet at this place that isn't allowed to let us meet, but we're going to do it every week so that we can be around each other. And if you don't have that, it is pretty tough to kind of escape.
But look at Rectum in the chat. Like things that bring me happiness. Like it's basically like family, relationships, work,
exercise,
personal growth, exercise, learning. I feel like all of the things he mentioned they're like downplayed in society. Like a lot of the stuff he mentioned, like
where's the courses that sell you on how to do
what's
that?
weird
better?
is a lot of the stuff he mentioned is like starting to fall into the category of like. So the strangest thing about politics these days is that people who work out a lot are starting to get classified as like being right.
You mean
like
as in conservative?
Yeah, like like there's this kind of thing now where
Body
like,
elitist.
if you're like you're very into like fat is beautiful and everything, that's like a left thing, and then like people who work out are like they're like alt-right, right? And then like people who are conservative or kind of into the family, and like people on the left are like this is a stereotype, but like the overarching theme is more like you don't like the message is like you don't need a man to be happy, you know, you have it all within you. So like, and I feel like a lot of the root of that, this is kind of what I was trying to grasp at earlier. I feel like this element of politics is preaching things for people that goes against like what I think is kind of fundamental base human motivators, like the desire to procreate, have meaningful relationships, to work and have purpose, to learn and develop. Those should be like basic things that if you do, like you will be happy. And those things have become political, which is weird and wrong, and I think a sign of like a schism in society. You know, like working out shouldn't be like a shouldn't be like a political thing. It's really weird.
Yeah, not at all.
I know, spicy take right there.
Well, yeah, you also have like the I think in the comments of that Jonah Hill thing, there was a ton of comments about what is it, body positivity, but that doesn't necessarily like line with like being healthy and making progress in your health goals. Like you have the far right, you know, label for exercise, but then you also have another angle coming at it, you know, for I don't know, not
Yeah.
like,
Well, there's this other sort of left-right thing where like a lot of left kind of ideology is there's this idea that
I can't believe these things are left-right things.
they shouldn't be, but they are. There's this idea
But that's
that like
why people are
if
unhappy.
we remove
that's a big part of why people are unhappy.
yeah, like if we remove all of the struggles of your life and just pave the way, then you'll be happy. And then the other side is sort of like in suffering there is meaning. A little bit of an oversimplification, but
Sure.
what's the Greek myth with the guy who pushes the boulder up the hill? Is that Sisyphus?
Sisyphus.
Yeah, like the guy just pushes the boulder up the same hill every day, and like he's happy. He's got like purpose. This is like what I do. I don't want to push a boulder up the hill every day.
I mean,
That's
I
not the
think
moral of the story.
It was
But
one of the Greeks, might have been Aristotle, that said like, your life is a waste if you don't know what your body was capable of in its lifetime. To achieve maximum physical strength and prowess is one of the great joys of life, to see what you can do. Like, he said that 2,000 years ago. Like,
And I think it's I think you can extrapolate that beyond body, but like your mind, all facets of your body, you know?
more
like-
than 2,000, by the way. Yes.
question: have you guys ever gone through like periods of like really severe mental health declines?
Yeah,
Yes.
That
yeah.
you
and
wanna
they were,
talk
They
about?
were exogenous and, you know, sort of like event driven, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
related to death or breakup or whatever. So like for me, not systematic, but just event based.
Interesting.
So some sort of external event would cause like inner turmoil, and it would last for longer than a period of, say, 2 weeks at a time, and you'd get into a longer term funk.
Yeah.
Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, exactly. I was sad. Yeah. I'm not a guy who's often sad, but I have been sad. And, you know, I think, you know, how I chose to deal with that sadness was not productive, but
Most people don't. They don't
I-
have the tools in that moment.
I drank.
But
Were,
yeah.
were you sad or were you like depressed? Like normal sadness?
No,
or
sad.
like it kind of got
I think
carried
I was
away?
more sad. Like, I've actually felt depression too, mostly like in not in times that even make sense. Like, depression to me feels like apathy. Sadness feels like sadness. You know, like sadness feels like I'm in pain. Depression to me feels like I don't even want to get out of bed. Like it's so meh. Like that to me is what depression I
Yeah,
think
you have
is.
like meh depression. I get like hopeless depression. It's not like
What does
meh
that feel like?
depression. It feels like hopeless. Like when I've had it in the past.
Well, I mean, describe like a thought that's going through your head that's like hopeless, like, because that to me, I don't know. That kind of is how I'm equating the sadness idea, where it's just like, oh god, this like first of all feels miserable. I want to drink to like numb the pain, etc. Versus what I'm terming depression, which I don't even know if this is correct, but I'm terming that as just like I just don't care. You know, I'm just like a
I think that's like a form of hopelessness.
it's definitely like, yeah. I know
Yeah.
people who are like that, and that's not me. I go like full send the other way. I mean, like the last time I was super depressed, like I had this kind of intersection of this was back when I was playing poker for a living, and I had this intersection of like poker was just banned basically overnight in the US, and then I went through like a really nasty breakup like around the same time. So I had this confluence of like I'm kind of like alone and unlovable with like what is my purpose in life? Like this is the thing I've dedicated my life to for the last
Your purpose was to play cards.
7 years. It was for me, and like that was what I did, and I was really good at it, and I had a name that was my identity, and to have that just like kind of zipped away, like for me, I think some people have certain things that really motivate them at their core, right? They're like it's like a plant needs water, right? Like that was my water, like having a purpose, being good at something, and like having some sort of notoriety for being good at that. Like that was kind of like what fed me. So it's like to lose that. And the other thing was like that was like really crazy for me, you know? And it was super hard for me to deal with it. And I was able to kind of eventually bootstrap myself back on the right path by first like going to therapy and just being able to analyze what was happening. Like even if like, and it's a weird thing because part of your brain is like, oh, I see what's happening here. This is causing this, and ergo I'm this. And then you have the other part of your brain that doesn't have logic, and it's just sad and it doesn't care, and you have those like weird voices going at it. But then I was eventually able to kind of do things like make sure I got really into CrossFit. I became one of those like really annoying people.
I am one of those people that thinks like exercise is
it's so key. It's like
minimum 50%,
exercise,
maybe
and
up to 90% of the equation.
Exercise, sleep, and don't abuse drugs is basically like the holy trinity of starting to feel better.
Yes.
Like, and I think if you stop
you
doing
can accomplish
that,
the 80-20 with that.
You mentioned something about identity, which I think is really interesting. Like, I don't know if you guys have had people in your life that have identified around one thing. It could be like, I'm successful. I make a lot of money is probably like one easy example. And then as soon as they hit a hiccup, it's not just I'm losing some money. It's a shattering of the identity, you know. And I think it's important to realize you're not just that. You're a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, maybe a father, a mother, your friend. You have this work, but you also have these hobbies. Like you have to like ingrain it in yourself that you have this health, this relationship part of you have the money-making part, you have the part where you celebrate with your friends. And if you can cultivate that, it seems you seem more durable to like having those issues. Because in high school, I had a real tough bout with it. And I think it was around identity because like that's the time in your, life where just like things are in flux, right? You don't really have, like you said, maybe a purpose, a work purpose. You don't necessarily have like a core group of friends, or if you do, that might be the time in which it's changing. Like you're maybe moving for college or moving on. And, I kind of look back at that time and I'm like, wow, maybe the identity part wasn't necessarily there, or like the framework of what you perceive to be yourself. And once it cracks, it feels like your whole personality cracks. But I feel like, a little bit through therapy, I've learned this, but also just by practice and then seeing people who've maybe fallen off the deep end is if you've focused that identity around one single thing, you're vulnerable to it.
Do you agree with what Basil said in the chat? It's talking about
Basil's trying to saying distinguish between having depression and being depressed. Is that what you're talking
depression
about?
is like a
depression as a
diagnosable
mental illness versus depression as a momentary, temporary passing.
Yeah. I've only felt the
phase.
second version of
And
that.
I don't understand or know enough about depression as a mental illness. I also know that this is a controversial topic and that a lot of people, I don't want to say get triggered, but have strong opinions on this topic. I think the majority of people, when they speak about mental health or they speak about depression in particular, are talking about the type of depression that afflicts virtually every human being at some point in their life, and it tends to be a temporary thing. Depression as a mental illness, depression as something where medication is recommended, if not let alone required, I don't know a lot about, but I tend to speak about, I think this conversation is about.
I've been given those drugs before, and like, I don't know.
But they tend to diagnose overly.
Well, they're
as
fucked
an
up because they're like,
illness.
well, we don't know which one's going to work. We don't know a dose. So we're just going to put you through the ringer of like, change your doses, change the type. And like, also I was like in high school going into college, and it's like, I don't know if that's the right time to prescribe those. Like, shouldn't we exhaust some other, options first? But yeah, I don't think we're talking about the like chemical imbalance, if that exists.
The mental illness version.
Yeah.
Can I
yeah.
ask you, maybe Steven, can I ask you a question? Like, when you're going through this like phase where you felt hopeless or whatever, did you, in your mind, sort of in the back of your mind, know that it was going to be okay? Because I asked that because when I was going through mine, in my couple times that I was going through any episodes, I did have that sort of like strength behind me, knowing like, this is temporary. I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to feel the pain, and this is painful, and this sucks, and I'm feeling it, but I did know that I was going to be okay, and I think that was maybe the difference between
That is the difference.
the mental illness version and the temporary version.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of bristle at the distinction Basil put out, and I get into arguments with people about this all the
I've
time
been into many
because
arguments about this too.
most people,
I don't
think,
even want to talk about it on the pod.
Like I think that there are people who are just chemically depressed. I
Yes.
totally believe that that's a thing. It is my
But do
opinion.
you believe that it's extremely overdiagnosed?
extremely overdiagnosed. I think
Thank
the
you.
medication is like wildly overrated, maybe even harmful. And I think like most people like lean on
Trade-offs
that
are
as a
negative.
like. I know what you're saying, and like when I went through this period of my life, this is also like, what was I depressed at the time, or is it a temporary thing? I mean, it was like 2.5 years. Like, at what point is it like, oh well, this is a temporary thing versus not a temporary
Like
thing?
chronic
And-
is arbitrary, right?
yeah, and like I sort of logically knew what you were talking about when I was really sad, but I also felt like it was never going to be okay again, even though a voice in my head also knew. Like, it's a weird feeling. It's like a hyper logical person to be able to step back and you're objectively looking at all of this, right? But at the same time, it doesn't matter. Like, that's when you really become
It was
aware
like
that there's these like
You
two
were
parts of you.
overwhelmed. Like the logical part was overwhelmed by the other part.
Yeah, the logical part of you is like really not who you are. Like, I think you are mostly a very emotional, reactive creature, and then you have this little logical part of your brain that sits on top of everything. But like, it's really, I think it's not like at all the majority of what guides you. And then when you get into that battle, like, it's really weird. It's like a weird feeling in yourself if you are like a super logical
But
person.
you didn't have
to
this
begin with.
apathetic, or like I don't care and it doesn't matter. Hopelessness was what you described it as, and I think what you mentioned, when it's apathetic, that's when it gets dangerous, because like, I don't care, and then you take it one step further and you're like, well, it doesn't. None of it really matters. Like,
yeah.
I think that's when it gets dangerous, and that's the part like you should be able to try to identify, because if it's hopeless, that's a feeling that you might carry. Like, I have the feeling of hopelessness, or sadness.
One of the weird things looking back on it that I realized, which I got upset with myself over, is like, I realized I actually could have gotten out of it a lot sooner, and I knew how to get out of it. But at a certain point in time, I think when you lose like the sense of purpose and identity in like a weird fucked up way, your new sense of purpose and identity gets wrapped up into this new thing. And then like when people start giving you like attention and caring for you because you're going through a tough time, like a part of you like latches onto that, and it can become this like weird trap where you like you're kind of like wallowing in the self-pity. You're almost finding meaning in the self-pity in a particular way because you want some meaning so badly, and then you get like
sort of
stuck.
like that
weird.
take, because I think it might just be like a circular reference in the mind or something.
Well, this alludes to a lot of things. Like, absolutely, you begin to wallow. And, the thing that triggered this discussion for me was an episode of Hidden Brain about belief that I mentioned to you guys, and how the social scientists were uncovering that. And I think people know this, but they need to recognize this and reaffirm this, that belief creates the feeling. The feeling doesn't create the belief. And so, for example, if you believe that the world, like a lot of young people do today, is scary or hopeless, or you're never going to be able to do this or that, that tends to shape how you feel. And so, actually, this kind of just clicked for me in a funny way. I think a lot of why that chart is hockey sticking is because of the beliefs that this generation was born into. They're born into a belief of hopelessness. Their entire identity and reality is shaped around like, fuck it. It's not even worth it to try. The only thing I can care about or can do is to become a YouTube star. And then I go into becoming a YouTube star and I don't even know why, but I'm more depressed because I'm just constantly comparing myself to the person with more followers and the person who's prettier or the person who has nicer abs, and I'm more and more depressed. And that belief about the world is what's shaping the way they feel. Cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the most effective ways to change how you feel. The book Feeling Good is a very good guide for this and one of the pioneering books on CBT. And CBT is controversial like everything today, and there's many different modalities that work well for helping and curing and aiding with depression or anxiety, but CBT is very well proven. And it all has to do with the crazy roommate in your head from the untethered soul.
Right.
The crazy roommate in your head is talking to you like a lunatic and telling you all these terrible things about yourself. You know, the funny phrase from that book is like, would you actually spend time with this person? Like if they existed and they sat next to you, like you would never be around someone so negative and so terrible. And yet they live rent free inside your head all the time. And they never shut the fuck up. That's most people. That's everybody, really, unless you're just like this incredibly at peace monk. And so the challenge of life is to be aware of that, to watch that, to become the watcher of that. And with CBT, that's a spiritual perspective on it from Michael Singer. From the CBT perspective is, how do I change what the crazy roommate is saying to then have better beliefs, to then have a better feeling in my body, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's really powerful stuff.
You brought up, and all three of you guys brought up this that reminded me of. You remember Tony Robbins' 6 human needs?
Oh yeah,
So I'll list them out real quick. It talks about certainty.
I love this.
You need variety,
I've actually never heard these.
significance, connection and love, and then growth and contribution. And I'll focus on 2, significance and certainty. And you can get that very different ways. Like you can get significance and certainty really quickly by, like you said, that feedback loop of I'm
Feeding
depressed,
back into I'm a victim.
I'm a victim, and
I'm getting social
you
feedback.
get significance,
for
and you're
being a
certain it
victim.
happens because
Yeah.
you've had this feedback loop hit you 10 times. The classic example Tony Robbins gives you is like the bad way to get significance and certainty real quick is hold a gun in your hand and point at someone. I am
You're the
immediately
most
significant to
significant
you.
Or
person
your
in my
boy
world.
Ted Kaczynski.
Yes.
Sorry, but that's a form of like his need was significance.
Please don't call him our boy.
Okay.
Or, originally, yeah, don't do that. But like social media, I could post 50 times a day, and every time I push that button, like instant, almost haptic feedback for significance and certainty, or maybe a little uncertainty, a little variety you get with it. Because like, if I post this, what's going to happen? Are they going to like it?
Right.
Are they not? It feels like a lottery machine. But they're also, in terms of cognitive behavioral therapy was what you were talking about, right? Like in order to change it, like we went through this exercise when we were there is like, list out all the behaviors that you do to achieve those things. Okay. Now just literally brainstorm on like, what do you do that's positive to do that? Is it like working out, helping someone, building a business, whatever it is? There are positive ways to achieve those things. And if you can kind of like create that feedback loop for yourself, it's kind of a way to move out of it.
I love
found
that.
it helpful.
I love that. I want to basically just ask more about what you said about the belief creates the feeling, because I really liked it. And I just want to use myself as an example, not to tell anybody else how to live, because I would never do that. But just for me, what I
Yeah, I bet you have very good baseline beliefs.
what I identified with when you said that was like I don't, in my identity is not necessarily like I'm CFA, I like trading, I'm an investor, this or that. Like my identity is more like I'm smart, I'm resilient, I'm strong, like these things. So like when something negative happens to me and I can get sad, I tend to always lean back on the identity, like I'll get through this. Like
But let me ask
I'm
you
strong.
something. It's not just beliefs about you. What do you believe about the world?
I believe the world. Well, yeah, I think this is. I don't think I'm gonna be much help to others here, because like I don't think my worldview is copacetic with like modern society. But what I believe is that the world is rad, and
I could not beg to differ more with the previous statement. How
Well,
could it not be copacetic?
I was just
Like,
looking.
literally.
I was looking at the
like-
hockey stick graph.
No, but that's okay. Maybe not be copacetic, but like, it is useful. It is beneficial to share this.
I love being
view.
alive. I'm so happy to be here. Like every day is a gift. Like I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here.
You know me well. What do you think my belief is about the world?
The same.
Awe,
Exactly.
like the
It's just like absolute awe that we exist every day, that everything is a miracle. And if that's what you believe, do you think that you're gonna
it's
find your way out of tough
it's tough
moments?
to subscribe to it though. I'll be honest. Like I would say like adventure is a little more like relevant for me, like in terms of like how I view the world, because an adventure could suck.
Well, you don't have to
sometimes.
subscribe to awe, but do you subscribe to something that is inherently positive or negative?
I don't know. Like an adventure can be really tough, but you know, a part of that can be really fun and exciting and rewarding, and you know, it's kind of like I don't deny that some people have like incredibly bad luck and just life just go through the fucking shit.
Oh, they absolutely do.
And
The human condition
that is reality. Like
is I wouldn't call it bad luck. I would just call it being human.
yeah.
It's just being human.
So I don't know. I find it tough to subscribe to, like, if we're just gonna call it a label, that's something that's like purely positive, because it is not that, you know?
Oh, it's definitely not that.
Right.
It's not purely positive. Of course not.
No, yeah. You're going into nuance, good nuance. I think it's important. I don't think Eric sits there and says like everything is good.
Of course not.
But I think that your general disposition is like the world has more good than bad. There are more
Definitely.
good people than bad people. I mean, I believe that without a doubt. Like, no question.
I think it's like 99-1. Like
Yeah, it really is. And I think if you generally have that disposition, then you can feel a certain way. Just to share personally, and then I want to mention something about, this is a big topic. I know we're going on for a while, but I want to mention something about Carl Jung, and it's a very different perspective on depression and mental health stuff that we haven't talked about before. So, I mean, I've had 2 serious bouts with depression. One was when I was a teenager. It was basically a long time, and it waved from like mild, like a constant mild, you know, Brad Pitt style, just something kind of there, to medium to moments of serious. And this was probably from like, I don't know, the moment I hit puberty, maybe more like 14, 15 to,
We hit puberty at 8, so
yeah, cleared by 9. So like basically like 13 to 17, maybe 18, more like 17. So it was years. And I struggled a lot. And then everything I went, it was kind of like there was a sequence of like external events, external conditions, things that you don't quite yet know about yourself, who you are. Maybe, you know, there's just so many things for so many different people. And I'll get to a Jungian perspective on this. And then later in life, at like 32, 33, which was not that long ago, it was like 4 years ago for me, it came back. And what came back was like this almost like circular reference point to my past and to things that I had not yet fully processed. I had not yet worked through completely the depression from my teenage years and my childhood. And so the depression that came back was more like volatile in nature as well. And with it came anxiety. And I had never, ever experienced anxiety. I didn't know what anxiety was. I would read about anxiety and I'd wonder what it was, literally. And I remember thinking about anxiety. I was like, I wonder if I'll ever really experience anxiety to be able to better empathize with my fellow human. And fuck, man, did I experience anxiety. I even had a couple panic attacks at one point. I might have told you, Nick. And like, I didn't know what to do. And it was insane. It was just like a lot, and then it would go away and it would come back. So to bring it to Jung, so Carl Jung is like the godfather with Sigmund Freud of psychotherapy. But they split because they kind of developed 2 very different schools of thought, and they have different opinions about the unconscious. They have different opinions about dream state. You know, Freud's known for just like all this like weird
sexual shit.
stuff, and Jung was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to go do this other thing. And they were at odds with each other. But he was very much a student and respected Freud in many ways. But I think the goat is clearly Carl Jung. He was off the charts brilliant, and he wrote so many volumes of work that it's just like impossible to digest all his work. I could spend the rest of my life just reading Jung, and I would never get through it all.
And Jung was also like a really kind of spiritual, religious man,
Extremely.
right? And then Freud was like very.
Yes, this is another big thing.
kind of like an interesting.
And one of the things about Jung is that he was so ahead of his time, and still, in my opinion, ahead of his time, like today, where there are, in the traditional psychology, cognitive psychology world, there's a split. You're either pro-Jung or you're not. And you view him as like this, he's kind of too out there, or you become a Jungian. And this is common
a
in
Jungian.
yeah, and this is common in psychology departments at some of our most prestigious universities, where he's generally dismissed. But I believe that if you really read Jung and you really look at what he's talking about things beyond the senses and constraints of what the scientific method allows for today. But to get to the heart of the matter, the way he describes depression is that every human being is in a process of individuation. Every human being is just trying to understand who they are, what they are here to do, to become the greatest version of themselves. And on that version, on that journey of becoming the greatest version of yourself, you will experience depression, obstacles, what he calls the mortificatio, which is like this image of a skeleton sitting at the bottom of a pit of darkness, and all that he or she can see is like one little ray of sun peeking through. And that's like that hopelessness that you're talking about, Stephen. It's like when you're in it, when you're in the pit of hopelessness, that's the image that he drew to represent that. You are dying. You are a skeleton. And all you can see is one little ray of sunshine hanging down from the heavens. And you do your best to grab that and pull yourself out. But he talks about it as a natural process that you cannot avoid, that every human being must go through in order to achieve this, not even achieve, in order to ascend up this ladder of individuation, and that the greatest journey until the day that we die is to know thyself. This is why I think he's the GOAT. This is why I think that what he talks about is what we're talking about. That, hey man, sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you just have to give it time. And maybe it's not this thing that a pill can solve. Maybe you just have to go through the grinder with it for a while and see what's there. Because often what's on the other on the other side of depression is like the next greatest stage of your life. You suddenly make a change or figure something out, and voila, it's like you had to go through the grinder to get there. So if you can't tell, I'm a big fan of his work.
we gathered that.
Yeah.
Ah.
But I like it because I think, as I've kind of, if you've been through a bout before, you feel a little more resilient afterwards, I think. And maybe it's a little bit of the process he's talking about, where you kind of like know yourself a little better. And through that process, you feel a little more, I don't know, prepared for the next bout, which will undoubtedly come, it feels like. Let's mention some stuff in the chat. Let's see. Calcium at host, thank you for being open to discuss and be vulnerable about this topic.
Yeah.
Too many people put up a show about everything being great all the time. Yeah, I totally agree.
Calcium had a good question.
You agree that we're
earlier too.
Both. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had a question about solutions earlier,
Oh,
which
yeah,
maybe it might be a good way to
So yeah, he
bring
said,
it home.
so what can society do to reduce/alleviate some of these issues? Social programs, tech companies, friends, family discussions, etc. I don't know. I mean, I talked before about like, remember we had that fitness challenge, a presidential fitness challenge. I think that would be nice. I think like a national parks
Pull-ups,
promotion.
stretch, touch your
You had to
toes.
stretch a certain amount. Like
We have removed a lot of physical fitness from like what was
Culture.
used to be a part of kids' lives on the idea that it's like I guess like discriminatory in some particular way, which I personally feel is super like wrong-headed.
yeah.
Like I think physical activity is like really important, and when you tell people that they should be happy being, extremely obese and not active and everything's fine the way that, I don't necessarily think that's good. Like I don't think we should mock people for being like overweight. I don't think we should like make them feel less than, right? But to say that that is a desirable way to live and you will be just as happy as the person who is like working on his or her body and doing that, I think that's just like a lie that we're telling to people. So I think we need to find a balance between those two things. We've kind of flip-flopped between extremes for sure.
Yeah. And then like I think a fun thing would be like a national parks promotion. Like, you know, the way that America's identified, it's like this land of like you come and make something of yourself, but also it's one of the most amazing places to like go through, some of the best like nature you could find in the world. I think that would be I don't know. It's probably like number 7 on the list, but I would love to see that like promoted as a culture, maybe as a country. But I don't know. I think discussions like this kind
This
of
is a
really
great
where it
discussion.
comes down to. Like you got to have someone to chat about this shit
My
with, because you're not going to get
perspective,
real.
My hard lesson is just sometimes like accept it and embrace it a little bit. Like see what's there for you in the struggle. That was the biggest thing I took out of my, sadness. a few
Eckhart
years
Tolle has
ago.
this phrase where he's like, whatever you fight, you're stuck with. Whatever you accept just kind of passes through you.
I think Carl Jung also said that, because I watched a TV show last night where they quoted Carl Jung saying that what you resist stays with you. Carl Jung.
Nice.
Eckhart Tolle.
Gustav. Do you know his middle name is Gustav? That's mainly why I like
Damn, is he Swedish?
Swiss.
That's close enough. Yeah, I think to wrap up with more on what Calcium was asking, I don't know if it's about like social programs. It's like I think a lot of it is like messaging. I think that we have to go back to conveying this idea of individualism to people. I think that when you tell people that they're sort of like a part of a group, they aren't like who they are as an individual. They're somebody that is the color of their skin or their sexual identity or whatever, and you strip them of that sort of individual autonomy, you're also stripping them of agency in a way and making them a part of a group that is either sort of like an oppressor or an oppressee. And I think one of the most depressing things that can happen to a human is to be stripped of autonomy and agency. It's just like, how could you not be depressed if that's what you feel like the world is? So I think just that messaging just needs to change. And it wasn't always that way. Like that wasn't how this country sort of used to be.
I love that. That's very well said. And along with that comes accountability, right? Like if you have agency, if you view yourself as an individual, not of this collective whole, like it's up to you to also fix it, right? Would you agree that there's this accountability part along with it too?
Yeah, accountability is huge. Like there's a lot of blaming that goes on. Like the stuff that happens to me isn't my fault. It's because of X, Y, Z. I don't know. I think accountability is like huge. I think accountability, like shame in some small doses is good. Like the ability to kind of feel something negative and go, oh, that's the impetus for change. That's the impetus for growth. That's kind of ties into what Armand was talking about earlier, which is that like we're all supposed to go through these kind of like hero journeys in a way. Like the reason this is embedded into all of the stories of our culture is because it's like something that's intrinsic to us and our growth as people. There is this element of like of rising and falling and suffering and going down to the
How on
bottom and
earth
feeling bad, and
do
then
you
like
get better?
yeah, and
How
then
do you
from that
individuate without
despair, like that's the suffering that
Or
allows
even be
you
able to
grow and
appreciate better
change.
if you haven't gone down. Like
Totally.
it's like a huge part of it. You need to be able to appreciate it.
Totally.
Yeah, like that's another thing.
That's
Like
the
if you don't have that, then you
paradox.
don't have perspective either. All these things are good in moderate doses. That's sort of my
I experienced a
take on
little
it.
shame a few days ago.
God.
It was a good
Oh,
dose.
tell the
of
story.
just-
Tell
no.
the story.
Oh man, I got dropped in Muay Thai, boys.
Knock the fuck out.
got knocked down.
I'm very worried.
No,
for
you got knocked the fuck out.
All right. Well, I was out from the time I got kicked in the face to the time I landed on the ground.
That's a long time.
But I woke up.
So hold on, tell the story. So,
So
somebody
it was a kick.
no,
kicked
no,
to
somebody
the
jabbed
face.
you.
He was
Jabbed you.
jabbing at me, and you're supposed to slip towards the jab. Well, I slipped the other way, and what the other way was coming was a kick to the face. And that little bit of shame has brought me some accountability to not make that mistake again. And holy fuck, that was a rough one. I kind of woke up I think I woke up once I hit the ground, and a little starry eyed for sure. But that's why I'm not drinking today.
Yeah, Algo's not drinking today because he's in concussion protocol.
I was really worried when he told me that because I quit playing competitive soccer after a concussion.
Is that from
I
jumping
got a
for head
concussion
balls?
playing non-competitive soccer.
Yeah, I went up. At the time, I was still playing very competitively, and I went up for a header, and the keeper of the other team came out to punch the ball out, and I was going for a header, and he knocked me out with his fist,
Oh,
like
shit.
just to the side of the
Superman
head.
punch.
Yeah, Superman punch to the dome, and I've never felt the way I felt. And it lasted 2.5 weeks, and I actually went through 2 fits of anger as well, where I experienced that feeling.
Irritability is a symptom of
Oh
a
my God. I remember
concussion.
it was dark and scary. And I remember being at the hospital that night, and the doctor was this young lady, and she came out and she's like, "Hey, Armand, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living?" I was like, do you have to use your words or write at all or anything like that? And she was totally trolling me. And I was like, yeah, I have a blog or something at the time, and I speak for a living, basically. She's like, cool. Well, if this happens again in the next 2 weeks or it happens repeatedly, you probably will not be able to do that well at all, and you could have permanent brain damage and all this stuff. And like, what are you doing? Like, why are you playing so competitive? I'm like, what do you mean everyone plays competitively? It's a competitive sport. And she was like, you should rethink this. And I did. I stopped, and I think I'm glad I did.
Yeah, you didn't deserve
but-
a Superman punch. I kind of deserve that.
Well,
that one. That was
I
a
think it's
mistake.
interesting how you're blaming yourself for
Shouldn't
like
have slipped the wrong way,
slipping
moron.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
interesting.
Well, it
Like,
was his fault. Didn't you listen to him?
I don't agree with him.
My
I mean,
coach sent me a text
I think-
afterwards. It wasn't like, "Hey, are you okay?" It was like, "Hey, listen, 100s around of sparring, probability is pretty high. You're gonna get dropped once or twice, and you add mistakes like that, and it increases your probability."
That's why I love
like, is that a-
fighting. There's nothing to hide behind when you fight. Like when you lose, it's just there's no umpire who missed the call. It's just like, yeah, you get knocked out.
I mean, in both of these stories, it just makes me really respect the fuck out of professionals who do that for a living, and where it's like,
Oh man.
But at the same time, you're like, "I'm really glad I don't do
could
that." Right?
never.
no, yeah, it's just fucking awesome.
All right, let's.
Well,
let's
how are you guys feeling? Do you want to
Yes,
keep going?
because you put it in the thumbnail, so we got to.
We can change the thumbnail.
No.
Only like 15 people
It's
have
in
seen
the
the
fucking
thumbnail.
title.
Did you not see the video we sent out about changing
Calcium
the
posted the
thumbnail?
video.
Calcium posted
You can
the video. We
change
saw
the
it.
thumbnail.
We watched it.
You can change the thumbnail.
What do you want to like rap? I'm having
No,
a great
I don't
time.
want to rap. I just want to make sure we're not like last week,
Yeah, this
we're
is a
like,
lighthearted
let's go
one.
again, and then we're actually like,
no, well, that
actually-
one wasn't planned. That wasn't unplanned. 2 hours in. What do you think about this huge topic? It's like I've never thought about
It was
this.
in the agenda. You
Okay.
could have read the agenda.
I
It was
I
right
don't-
there.
I don't believe that.
All
So
right.
your buddy released a AI dating app.
It's still in beta.
Okay.
Maybe alpha, actually. I don't even know if we want to call
So
it.
what does it do? Like,
Beta.
how does AI integrate into dating apps? I don't get it.
Is this like a funnel creator?
Yeah, I mean, it has a funnel,
Okay.
but no, it's not a funnel
But
creator.
does it help me create
Like
a
a-
dating funnel?
A funnel for a dude is
Yeah.
what Armand's asking.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of in a way, yeah. Your dating app is a funnel.
yeah.
You got you learn people in, and then
Essentially, that's exactly what it is.
It is a funnel. Your little prompts, your photos or ads, and then people click on your profile, right?
Yeah.
They're on your website now, and then
do they buy?
add to cart.
Yeah, by swiping
And now
right. Yeah.
when they're in their cart, now you're talking to them, and then you're trying to get the conversion.
Swiping right is the add to cart.
Okay.
And I
so
guess
it's
the date
it's
is
a
maybe like
funnel
an upsell.
automator.
I don't know.
It is.
Yeah, so I mean the shtick of this app is it's gonna just eventually automate everything about online dating, right? Like it'll run through all of your pictures. It'll tell you which ones are likely to be attractive, unattractive. It will edit them for you to make them more attractive.
Perfect to make you look more like your real self. Got
Yes,
it.
but not in a way that's like yeah, exactly. It'll analyze your prompts.
Write
And then
them
like
for
the-
you. You have no personality anymore.
Of
It's
course.
a robot
Yeah,
personality.
and then one of the craziest things. So this is the thing that our friend looked at. We'll call him Billy.
Do
so
I
we
know
don't
this
have to-
person?
No,
Yes.
nobody's ever met him before.
Okay.
You were there. You were there while it happened, actually live.
So then I know him.
So I gave the beta of this app to Billy, who's not good at talking to girls, even on the internet. And I was like, look, the promise of this app is you can send it a girl's, like, you don't even have to do it. You just usually screenshot the prompt and you just text it to a number. And then it just produces like 10 openers for you. And if you don't like any of those openers, you swipe, you get 10 more openers, right? So Billy was so addicted to this after the first time that, like, when he tried to do a new girl, it made him log in again and like, create a new account because it's an alpha. And he was so infuriated with the fact that, like, he couldn't get his like fix of just auto-generated prompts for him to like he threw a little hissy fit, and I actually recorded a video of it and sent it to my guy. I'm like, so I know he's insulting you in this video, but this is really good product market fit because this man has used the product once
It's the
and
best
is crying like a
compliment of all
baby
time.
that he can't can't access it anymore.
Totally.
But yeah, it got me thinking, like, where does this go?
Oh, it ruins,
Like,
it ruins it for
Sounds
everybody.
pretty good.
No, it ruins it.
Sounds really good. Sounds like hyper optimization.
I mean, everybody would
matchmaking.
use it, right? Like, let's just be honest.
Hyper-optimization
Everybody would
of
use
Not
it.
optimization at all. Like it's just
Matchmaking
just
gold.
puts everybody into the same bucket of this gets swipes. Like that doesn't help an individual at all.
That's the problem
What do
with
you-
doing
how do you
everything
help an
digitally, though,
individual?
right?
What do you want to help the individual?
So
What-
this,
why is this
like
bad?
this helps Billy, that he labeled him. This helps Billy because nobody else is using it. But when everyone's using it and the playing field is leveled, it just ruins it
Yeah.
for everyone.
You have to use it. You have to
Ruins
opt in.
it
It's
in
like
this-
steroids in baseball. Like, if
Because,
everybody starts using them,
Like
then
imagine the counterparty.
Isn't this like raising the minimum wage?
Imagine the counterparty. The
Don't you
girl
want
is
that?
like, I've seen this before. Okay, lame. Like they're
no,
like,
This
that's
is
what they do
raising-
now. Because, like, men are already doing this now. What they do is they go on the web and they Google, like, 10 openers.
I've never
for-
done this before, by the way.
Yeah, well, people do this, right? And then you go to these blogs and
I
they
don't
say
think
openers.
this is common.
This
And
is
then
the
you will talk to
equivalent-
women and they'll be like, "What? I've gotten the same super random opener about, like, accidentally falling into a sidewalk crack or something. Like, where did this come from?" And it's like, "Oh, well, that's the number one result on Google if you Google this, right?" But this is just the natural extension of what people are already doing. Is they're trying to be more original, they're trying to sort of stand out in a way, right? But, like, women do this as well. Like, women will, at first they just would, like, tweak the lighting and then the angles, and they got better at doing that. And then they started using, like, Facetune, and they would just, well, make the skin a little clearer. And then it was like, what if we make the legs like an inch longer? And well, what if we make these lips just a little, and then pretty soon, like, it's like a different person if they take it too carried away. So I think men are now just catching up to that on the conversational side, where we're using technology to, instead of making us look physically more attractive, now we're going to use technology to make us seem funnier or
Funnier
wittier.
and physically more
play
or
it
attractive.
not.
out.
So,
So
what
play it out.
I'm saying, like we had this quote prompt in our thumbnail. It says, "Will AI ruin relationships?" I don't think at all. I
Will
think
ruin dating.
it'll ruin online dating with certainty.
So it will destroy it.
Yes.
It will render it obsolete.
No, what
it'll
if
render it irrelevant.
Short term, the first mover is going to crush.
Oh, absolutely. Billy's gonna have a great time.
Billy-
Obviously, yeah.
Oh, first movers are going
Billy
to
has
absolutely.
a year of just like the greatest year he's ever had.
And then it's over.
However, it might be over very quickly. It might be over very, very quickly.
Billy, you better fucking act fast.
But really, what you're doing is you're improving. You're improving. Oh man, it's a really interesting like equation if you think about it, right? Because like all it's really doing is nothing is changing about the inherent characteristics of the individuals on the platform.
Whoa.
What?
Couldn't disagree more. Like the platform exists because you want to get to know the other person, and when you are coming with full falsity, like you're falsifying your look, you're falsifying your opener, you're falsifying everything.
Yeah, I said nothing is changing about the inherent like who you are, the characteristics of the individual on offline.
Like in real life.
I'm still me in real life.
in real life. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to like examine how this plays out. Like I'm still me, but
Yeah.
I'm putting out a version of me that is like 10 out of 10.
No,
And
it's
it
a-
gets the
it's a
attention.
lie.
It's
Like
a
it-
lie. I agree.
It's a 10 out of 10 lie.
And then on the other side, the attention that like the ability for like, let's just say it's the girl, because this is typically guys will be doing this. They're just going to get a lot more qualified responses.
I think
all
you're
of a
only
sudden.
like your thing is short term, right? Because long term, like
no,
you,
I'm trying to play out
so
how this falls apart.
Let's play out in the long
I'm
term.
like with you. I'm trying to
Okay,
play out
so let me just fast forward.
step by step.
Okay, let's just fast forward it to the end.
Okay.
So in the end, nobody plays a game where the whole thing's a scam. Like nobody wants to play that game.
Right.
It's like if you're going to play a game that's all a lie, you just don't play.
Yes.
I take the opposite side of this. This is amazing for dating apps.
Okay.
Like-
how do you see a sustainable future?
I agree with Nick.
So first of all, let's say, and he's trying to come up with witty responses, trying to be humorous. He gets 10 ideas every time he swipes. Like, what if he actually becomes a little more witty and humorous by like getting some repetitions in? Now, he's not necessarily going to carry that personality to like the first date, but essentially what you're doing for these dating apps is creating more conversions. Like, whenever we send a marketing email, the point of the subject line is to get them to open the email. The point of what's in the email is to get them to click. The point of interacting on the dating site is get people to connect, and then they're more likely to get in person. And then are they going to have
your logic
seeming-
is
So you're
flawed
saying this
because
is bullish for Hinge.
no, your
Yes, it is.
no, your logic is flawed
but is that
because
good?
people will not log in anymore. They'll just
No.
I'm
they'll-
with Eric for a very clear reason, because you guys are stopping the funnel after the online conversion.
No,
The
I'm
rest
saying
of
my
it
argument
is if everyone meets up for first dates that suck and are not with the witty, good-looking person
Right,
they
it's
thought
like
they
an
were
inaccurate
meeting,
representation.
it's over, and they will not open the
Okay,
platform.
can I-
It's
can
gonna be
I-
easier
Oh,
to
so they're
get
just
those.
going to keep meeting
Can I
up
steel
with
man?
people?
Can I
Yes.
steel man the
Oh, I'm
case
just
for
gonna
Billy?
take another chance.
Let me-
One
let
out of
me just,
99.
Can I
run
steel
it.
man the case for Billy?
Okay, go ahead, Steven.
All right. So there's a problem that a lot of men have in the world, right? Which is that on the one hand, if you talk to women and you're like, what do you want in a man? They will give you a bunch of descriptors like, oh, I want a guy who's nice, who's emotionally sensitive. Maybe they're like a provider, all these things, right? But the reality of the situation is that in most scenarios where like men and women congregate to meet, they tend to be in these like areas where like as a man, if you have these like very like primal characteristics, like you have like a huge edge. Like most interactions happen in bars, right? Who has an edge in bars? Extremely good-looking men, tall men, jacked men, not emotionally sensitive men, right? So like the playing field is like stacked against you in that particular way. So in that way, by moving into the online space, some of these guys like have an ability to get like a foot in the door. Like maybe they can use some of their other tricks to kind of like sneak in there. They don't have to rely on being.
Okay, but can we
Okay,
fast
well,
forward?
I'm with you so far. I'm with you so
fast
far.
forward. What? Like,
I'm with you
what's
so
the
far.
outcome of
I
virtual
am with you so
relationship?
far.
The outcome of this is that like what everybody
FaceTiming and sex on FaceTime?
No. I think you're stopping in the middle, which I agree is going to be like kind of shitty. But I think ultimately what we get to in the end is good. Like people are on the online dating apps because they want to accelerate some process from like, I want to meet somebody to I want to be with somebody who's like ideal for me. And they want to just fast forward that whole process. By using all the AI and injecting into it, we're sort of like accelerating the development
that's
of
why
this
you
kind of
use-
shitty area where like
But
people
you
break the
want
system.
the prompts in the profile to be genuine, because when you meet up with this
No,
person,
no,
hold on.
you want the filter to
Let me-
be
let
this
me-
is the person I want to be with.
Okay, here's what's going to happen. If you're 6'3" and ridiculously good looking, you're not going to use the AI thing.
Hold on,
You're just going to
Steven.
like post pictures of you and you're going to list your height and then you're going to do fine, right?
Let me ask
this
you-
other guy like can use this as a way to just
I think
get-
that's stupid.
Like you need to get into the date and like be able to talk to the person one on
I
one.
can't tell what you're saying. Let me ask you this: are you saying like the ultimate end of AI? Because like maybe the cycle reverses long term, where like you just flip a switch on, where you say like AI, find me my ideal match. And then it just does.
Yes.
Like that part I can tend to
That
agree
will
with.
happen eventually.
Where like dating as we know it, the act of choosing is no longer even a thing. It's just like you.
But what you're describing is great and different than what Steven is
No,
describing.
no. We're describing the same thing. What I'm saying
he
is
just
like,
didn't get there.
No,
and I
but
jumped
there's a
forward.
very important nuance here. I cannot let go. No. If what Eric is describing comes to fruition, it must be rooted in what is genuinely true for that person. That means
Yeah, how
that
do
in
they
order
decide?
to
Yeah.
matchmake, you have to interview me and take who I am and convert that
At a real
You
level.
have to
Yes,
get to the
yes.
interview, though. Most
Yes.
of male dating is some form
Fine.
of scammery
But if it's
and
just-
smoke and
if it's
mirrors.
just
If you don't
get me
have
the
outwardly
Okay,
like desirable
but do you agree
characteristics.
or do you disagree that if it was just about matching the profiles and taking any copy that gets the open or the swipe, then that is a colossal failure.
Yes.
However, important nuance, if it's rooted
Yes.
in who you are, what you do for fun, and the things you might already be into,
Right.
and the AI was able to create the best representation of you to get you to the date, I think that's sustainable and repeatable.
Yeah,
and
and
scalable.
I even think that it's like it doesn't even work until like the very, very long tail where like we remove all this shit that you're talking about, like all the prompts, all the everything that's
just click a
all
button.
contrived. It gets back to even the core, like the original like Facebook, MySpace. Who are you really? And then AI just finds you the match. Like
Yeah.
turn on looking, check, yes. Here's your match. Try it.
Yes, we have to get to the date portion. There is a real problem that I have observed anecdotally in the world where there's a lot of women out there who are like, gee, I just can't find this like guy, right? But all the means they go through to find a guy, they're going to bars, they're on Hinge. Like, I watch them live on Hinge. Like, I watch them swipe through men who are probably really good for them, and then they get stuck at like. So there's a problem just matching these men, women, and just getting them on a date where they can talk one-on-one in person. Like, because these guys have to go through either like a bar scene or this like crazy like online dating thing for like 85% of the interactions, right? If they can't find like a friend-to-friend intro or stumble upon somebody in Starbucks and they don't have like a little bit of game, they're sort of screwed. So I feel like if we can remove that and get to the point where more of these guys can just sit down with somebody, then I think it's like actually kind of a win.
Okay, so no one here is single. If you were single, what would you do? If I was single, I would use the apps to get laid. And if I wanted to actually be in a relationship and meet someone, I wouldn't do it through an app. I would do it through offline.
I
only.
totally disagree.
So here's where I disagree.
Offline only.
Where I disagree is that you've like siloed them so discriminately. Where I think like if I was, as you're describing, single, I would just meet as many people as possible. Period.
Yeah. I like the offline, curious nature of like the mystery of who you are
It
and getting
doesn't
to know
work
you.
anymore.
and-
Everybody lives online too much.
I know, but it does work. Come
It's a
on,
relic
there's still
of a
people
older
meeting at a
time.
bar, meeting at yoga class. It's like, ooh, I want to say hi to her.
You
Like,
are such a boomer.
I'm such a romantic. I'm a romantic. I like the idea of like.
You just
that-
never used the apps. You were
I know,
you were
I
in a
missed it
relationship
by, like,
before
6
all of
months,
that,
yeah.
so you just don't even get it.
I don't get it.
I mean, this could seep into real relationships as well, though. Like, did you guys see the South Park where they start
By the way,
using
I'm not
ChatGPT?
saying you can't meet your wife or husband on the apps. I'm just saying.
You're saying you wouldn't.
I'm saying I'd prefer to meet them offline. Yeah.
Okay. Here's where stuff gets problematic in my mind. Like, imagine a world where you're not just using this for like lead gen, foot in the door, and then you get in the door, and then you use your real self and you live happily ever after. Like, if there's a world where you're dating somebody and then like you have a girlfriend, right, and your girlfriend's texting you, and then you just have an app that is automatically responding to your girlfriend in the most optimal way possible, automatically all the time.
South Park.
South Park, this is gonna be one of those like Simpsons did it type things where this like actually just happens like a few years from now. Then stuff starts to get weird. Like if in the future we have like computer chips in our brains, and like instead when we're saying words, actually we're not really saying things we feel. Like the brain is just processing the thing our girlfriend said, and then we're just delivering the optimal response. Then we're not humans talking to each other anymore at a certain point. Then we're just robots kind of interacting, and then I think that's bad. That's probably no good. I kind of feel like that's where it's going inevitably. Like we always think it's going to stop.
bad.
Oh, we're going to stop it right here. We're just going to stop it where we get a date, but then we're not going to go any farther. But we clearly will.
How weird would it be if like the person at this podcast right now was like not even me? Like I could just send a representation of myself. Like what if we
Are you a
become an
hologram?
infinite? What if we become holograms? What if we become infinite duplicate versions of ourselves?
That's what,
And the way we maximize experience and the way we see capital as well, because we're living in a capitalist society, is to clone ourselves into as many environments as possible. Keep the wife happy, keep the podcast happy, write the book, build the business. I mean, that's a weird fucking thought.
I think that's probably the realistic version of longevity.
That's a terrible. I'm excited. I'm back in.
Well,
I like that. Yeah, no, that's good.
maybe this actually ends up being good because
that's immortality right there.
Immortality. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if this actually doesn't? What if this creates such a shitty user experience that a bunch of people are like, "Fuck it, I'm going into the real world," and then like we have this like counterculture, like
Don't
with
do
the,
that. Reject the matrix.
Like
yeah.
the young generation is
Oh,
like,
dude,
God, these
totally.
boomers and their dating apps.
This is
I'm
my
just gonna
favorite topic, man.
Just gonna
you reject the
my favorite.
Talk to
matrix.
real humans.
Yeah, of
I
course.
love when we talk about this. I love it. Like it's Ready Player One. It's every great technology movie. It's just like duplicate AI versions, clones of yourself, like just out there. And then society fragments into organic versus technology, and you just have to choose. What would be nice is to be able to go back and forth, to be able to know what base reality is at all times and have one foot in it, but like, hey, I'm going to go play for a while. And then like go play and go do your thing, but then come back to base reality.
Oh,
I
that's
think
too
we're going to very
seductive.
quickly.
That's like a Lord.
forget.
That's like Lord of the Rings metaphor.
Hold on,
It's like,
Jordan-
I'm just gonna put on the ring for a little bit. and have a
Jordan
little
just
bit
in
of
the
fun.
comments posted something very epic.
What?
That he's matched with over 200 girls on these apps.
You met up with 15.
Is that a lot or a little?
Well, I
That
don't-
seems like a perfectly normal.
I don't know.
That's like a perfectly normal conversion rate.
7.5%?
7.5%.
Does that mean there are a lot of
conversion.
bots, or does Jordan have a good conversion
See,
rate?
I don't know anything about this.
I would bet that's exactly my like conversion rate lifetime. Was my conversion rate lifetime.
Holy, but just like pure absolute numbers, forget the percentage. 200.
200.
200.
Why would you reject that funnel? I think that's the point. If you're
Exactly.
Yeah, why
single,
do
you
you-
take the funnel.
Yeah.
That is nothing. The first time I went on Hinge, I was in New York City visiting for a month. I
that
downloaded the
sounds
app.
Oh, I remember this phase
That
for
sounds
you.
fun.
This
It
is
was
epic.
like I didn't leave my bed for like 3 days. It just fed me like 600 girls like within like a 6-block radius. I was just like,
Well, that's New York. That's
definitely New York.
well, they
that's
do
New
that
York.
too when you sign up. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, they
they like
feed
they
you.
really like get you just.
They do that. I bet they do that right before your free trial ends. As
They know
well.
exactly when you're about to drop off,
your
and they
month
just
ends.
and then right when you kind of commit, they like pull it
Boost
back.
you.
It's
Nick's
so-
like running these
it's
things.
so
He's
evil.
like, I know, I do.
Oh, it's for sure. It's for sure a bunch of Nicks.
He's sitting
Oh
at
my
the
God.
Excel sheet like, what if we pump them more girls right before the retention falls off? Yeah. Yeah, let's do that.
Hey, I'm serious about that whole topic. Like, I think that is probably, that's a very probabilistic scenario where like we're literally just spreading ourselves in every possible direction, optimizing, capitalizing, and
Your
then,
agents, baby. You got your
What's-
agents.
Yeah, your agents.
No, people
Fully autonomous.
People in the chat are talking about this return to the physical, actually.
Opting out of
and
the
I kind
matrix.
of I kind of agree with that. You're actually seeing trends of this now on TikTok where people are like we've talked about like you guys heard like the trad wifing trend.
Yep.
Like there's like a
No, what is that?
You mentioned it last week.
yeah, there's like these girls on TikTok who are just like they're they're like I want to be
cows
like
and-
a housewife. I'm
Yeah.
dressed like a housewife and cooking and I'm happy and then people are like mad. But, like,
Carnivore's wife.
there is this there's this certain like subset of society who's like I'm so fucking tired of like this like digital girl who's like flaky and non-committal and she's got 19,000 people talking to her and maybe I do just want like an old-fashioned girl who like cooks me dinner and so and maybe there's nothing wrong with that. So there are a lot of people who are just kind of like going the opposite
There-
direction
there
and
was
not
the-
going even more into the
There was an
matrix.
equivalent of a guy version of that. I saw it. This like, you know, where they do these TikTok series where they go up and interview people. Well, this like gorgeous girl goes up and interviews this guy, and she's like, "If you were gonna rate me on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate me?" He's like, "I wouldn't. Happily married." And she's like, "Okay, well, if you weren't married, what would you do?" He's like, 0. Doesn't matter. Happily married. My wife is the most important person in my life. Wouldn't even consider it. And it was just a bait to get a number, and he just like didn't play into it. And I think that is like the guy equivalent of what you're saying. They're like, no, I'm happily married. I'm committed. I'm long term. We're growing a family together. So there is a little pushback.
I am bullish. Like I do think the pendulum is swung back the other way. Like I don't think we are
We're going away from this.
Yeah,
dystopia.
like I think we've strayed as far as possible from God, and we're swinging back the other way a little bit now.
I do think for dating, it's the same thing. Like it's been the highest risk reward to go to the hottest girl in the bar or the place and approach her.
Oh,
because, like, most
meta,
people,
yeah, the meta
most
changed
don't.
a while back.
And it'll get
I
even
would-
increasingly better risk reward
Armand's
to do
like,
that. I mean, that's how I met my significant other. That's how Armand met
There
his.
is so much in there.
All right. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I got
you
3
know what
drunk
they
boys on my
say,
hands.
Let's wrap it there before Armand gets in trouble.
So do us a little favor, like the video, help the YouTube AI match us with some prospective followers, watchers, if you could. Subscribe if you haven't. If you're listening, join us on the live stream, 5 p.m. PST on Wednesdays. All the links are at alfalfapod.com.
Thanks, guys.
Love you
Taza,
guys.
Vibes bringing the vibes.
Nah. All right, later,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you guys.
It's a great
Bye.
episode. Great to see everybody. Peace.